Ch1 Meeting the Fox. On October 5th, a small 6-year-old boy with blonde hair and 3 defined whisker marks on both cheeks was curled up into a ball to protect himself from what he knew what was coming. On the days leading up to the festival of the defeat of the great nine-tailed demon fox, the beatings he received would be at their worst. He didn't know why he got these beatings. Although he had some clues, it saddened him to no end that everyone in the village, with the exception of the Hokage and the family that owned the ramen stand, hated him. When the villagers showed up, they ransacked his apartment and beat him to near death. He usually withstood a few minutes of it still awake, but it seemed that there were a few more ninja in the mob than usual, and he slipped into a state of unconsciousness. Naruto woke up in a corridor, resembling a sewer with water dripping from the ceiling into a shallow pool of water that was ankle-deep. Having no idea where he was, his mind sat to explore his surroundings. He wandered aimlessly, trying to find out where he was, when he came into a massive chamber which housed a huge cage. In the middle of the cage was a symbol with the word seal on it. Naruto isn't stupid. He knows what this is now. He knows it from the villagers that talk about the fox demon, and the things that they say to him make sense now. The things that the third Hokage told the ENBU when they say something with the word demon in it, making things even more clear to him. He now understands why everyone hates him, why everyone tries to kill him, and why no one will let their children near him. The nine-tailed fox demon is sealed inside of him. He knows this now, but he decides to feign ignorance and act as an idiot to throw people off, trying to make them see that he isn't a monster, at least for now. Naruto walks closer to the gate, but not too close. He sees something with a red aura come closer to the cage. Naruto's assumptions are proven correct when a massive face of a fox came into view. "You have finally come, child. Tell me, what is your name?" came a feminine voice from the cage. Naruto looked on, gobsmacked. The beast of death and destruction itself was being polite. He was at a loss for words. The fox seemed to notice this. "What's wrong, child? Not what you expected?" it asked. Shaking his head out of his shock, he stood up. "I didn't think you would be this polite for a demon lord. I would have thought you would have tried to have my head for being trapped here," Naruto said. A small laugh was heard from the cage. "Child, I am by no means a raving demon lord hell-bent on death and destruction. What transpired 6 years ago was not my doing, or not entirely," the demon explained. Naruto looked skeptical. "If that's true, then what exactly happened?" "Actually, never mind that right now. I'll ask you later. Right now, what I want to know is why you sound like a female. The stories make you out to be a male because of everything that you had done," Naruto questioned. "That's very insightful of you. I am female, as you so rightfully found out. Hold on a second. Let me help you a bit. It is hard talking to a 30 stories tall demon, isn't it?" she asked. The massive figure of a fox blazed red, and it changed into a human form. When the red glow receded, Naruto could see a beautiful woman with vibrant red hair that ran halfway down her back, a fairly large chest size, and what Naruto found that captured his attention the most, her eyes were an exotic blood red with a black slit in the middle. She wore a glittering black kimono with a symbol of a fox on the front. Naruto, regardless of his age, couldn't help but get a nosebleed from it, exerting a giggle from the fox woman. "I'm flattered that I can get such a reaction from my container. Speaking of which, you never did tell me your name," she said. Naruto smacked the back of his head for forgetting his manners. "Sorry, my name is Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. What yours?" he asked. She seemed to think about it for a moment, shocked that he would ask her such a question clear on her face. "You're the only one to ever see me, so I guess I could tell you my name. You know my title as QB, the nine-tailed fox, but my name is Hitomi. Just don't tell anyone," she said. Naruto nodded his head. "Okay, Hitomi, I won't tell anyone. Not that it matters much. I'm leaving this village as soon as I can," Naruto told her. Hitomi tilted her head to the side a little bit, intrigued at this little piece of information. "Naruto, child, why are you leaving?" she asked. Naruto looked at her with a heavy look. "There is only so much hate it can take. I want to leave this village and go find somewhere that will accept me and not hate me for having you locked up inside me," Naruto explained. Hitomi looked at Naruto for a moment before she gave a sigh. "If you really are going to leave this village, then I think it is imperative that you learn how to defend yourself. For that reason, I will train you in an ancient form of chakra manipulation. You will find that no one on this planet besides you will have this skill. It is ancient and extremely powerful and is my favorite skill above all the skills that I possess. She told him. Naruto's face adopted an ecstatic expression. Really, Hitomi? You would do that? Naruto asked, on the brink of tears. Yes, Naruto, really. I'm not like those villagers and ninja in your village. I will stick by you. Partly because I have no choice, but I really do want to help you, she said. Naruto did cry after that, a river of tears hitting the water on the floor. Okay, kid, here's what I think you should do. I want you to go to sleep and go to your Hokage and ask for a little bit of money for food, seeing as the villagers most likely stole anything and everything of value from you. Now, before I send you off, I have a parting gift for you. This will hurt, but it will protect you from now on. Fox Defense, Chakra, Release, she said, forming a few weird seals with her hands. Next thing Naruto saw was being surrounded by red chakra, and he felt it rip into his skin, effectively knocking him out. Naruto woke up a few hours later, all the wounds he sustained from the villagers' attack from last night now completely healed. Naruto thought back to that strange dream that he had with Hitomi. It was no dream, kid. I said that I would be there for you, and I intend to keep my word. Hitomi's voice sounded in his head. Naruto fell backwards, completely unprepared for the sudden voice in his head. Sorry, kid, I did forget to mention that after I gave you your gift, I also developed a type of mind link, so that you don't have to keep getting knocked unconscious every time you want to talk to me. As an added bonus for me, I get to smell, see, and hear everything you can. As a result, your senses have been heightened considerably. Hitomi said. Naruto's head was swimming with the information that he was processing. Before he could dwell on it, Hitomi reminded him that he needed to see the Hokage. Naruto got dressed in his usual orange jumpsuit, but decided on not wearing his jacket. A plus about using chakra manipulation is that you can create almost anything out of your chakra, whether it be clothes or weapons or anything, as long as you know what it looks like. Also, if you're able to master it, you can use it in place of jutsu and use chakra-style moves. This way you can cause great amounts of damage and not use up any chakra at all. Oh, and before you go outside, remember that if you want to talk to me, just think, don't talk out loud, or the villagers will get the wrong idea and try attack you. Hitomi advised. Naruto agreed and left to see the Hokage. On his way to the Hokage Tower, he was met by the entire village populace glaring at him. But he paid it no mind, but quickened his pace. If he were to try anything, the men in the white masks would show up and make a fuss. Avoiding trouble was a talent of his, and he was able to navigate his way through the village streets and alleyways without much trouble. When he got to the tower, he went to the Hokage's receptionist. Can I help you with something? She asked, not lifting her head from her work to see who it was. Getting a little bit hopeful, but not much, Naruto spoke up. Can I please see the Hokage? He asked politely. The receptionist looked up from her work to see Naruto. Her smile changed into a scowl so fast that Naruto thought the smile was never there. Demon, what are you doing here? Get out of here before I call the ANBU. She yelled. Naruto wasn't happy about this, but he didn't let it show. He had learned a long time ago that if he showed weakness, the villagers would just feed off it. Please, it's important, I really need to see him. He begged. The receptionist glared at him harder. Seeing as he wasn't going to be able to get her to let him in, he made a run for the office door behind her. The receptionist went up to him, about to hit him, when a thick stream of chakra shot out from his tailbone in the form of a tail and grabbed her hand before she was able to touch him. Seeing what just happened, the receptionist screamed, immediately summoning the ANBU on duty. The ANBU, seeing what was happening, quickly went to slice off the red string of chakra from the hysterical woman. Another tail of red chakra intercepted the strike, stopping the advancement instantly. Demon, let us go before I kill you, the ANBU threatened, though he was in no position to make threats. In response, Naruto's body was engulfed in a blaze of red chakra. All the while, Naruto looked on in fascination at what was happening. At this time, the Hokage opened his office door to see what all the commotion was about. When he saw the red chakra, he was frantic. What's going on here? He yelled. Naruto shook himself out of his trance at what had just happened and explained. This lady wouldn't let me in to see you, and when she went to hit me, this red stuff stopped her. When she screamed, this guy tried to attack me, and he was stopped the same way. I don't know how it happened, it just did. Naruto said. The Hokage was alarmed at this. The fox's chakra intercepted attempts to harm the boy. He instructed for the two who were trapped to relax and calmed down. Although reluctantly, they complied with their leader's request and calmed down. Almost instantly, the red chakra withdrew back into Naruto, the tails retracting back to the tailbone. The Hokage dismissed the ANBU and ushered Naruto into his office, giving his receptionist a withering look that said, "Clear out your things before I send you to Ibiki," before closing the door behind him. The Hokage turned to Naruto, motioning towards the chair in front of his desk. Naruto sat down wordlessly. The third Hokage took out his pipe and lit it, taking a long drag of smoke before blowing it out. Naruto could tell that the aged Hokage was unsure of how to approach this because he didn't want to mention the fox's presence inside the boy, thinking that Naruto didn't know about it. Naruto was about to start when Hitomi interjected. "Explain to him what happened last night, first in order to tell him how you met me," she advised. Mentally nodding, Naruto took in a long breath. "Old man, I was attacked last night," he said. The Hokage was at attention at an instant. "I was unconscious for most of it. They must have stopped shortly after, believing that I was dead. Before they left my apartment, however, they destroyed everything that I owned. So I need some money," he told the Hokage. The aged man nodded. "I'll sort out the money, but can you tell me, do you know what that red stuff was?" the third asked. "It was Kyuubi's power. When I was knocked unconscious during the attack, I met up with her," Naruto told him. The room became deathly quiet. The only sound coming from the room was the Hokage's pipe hitting the floor with a dull thud. "She? The fox is female," the Hokage said quickly, but cleared his throat and composed himself. Never mind. What did she tell you?" he asked worriedly as he bent down to pick up his pipe. Naruto raised his brow at the village leader. "She said that she would train me. She said the people in this village won't dare try help me get stronger because of who they think I am," he said. The Hokage looked at him with wide eyes. "So the Kyuubi talks to you?" he asked quickly, still having a bit of trouble digesting this piece of information, as well as that he is concerned what the fox was telling the boy. Naruto nodded at the Hokage's question. "She didn't actually say it. From what I can gather, if I were to die, so would she. So she gave me that thing that you saw outside the door to keep that from happening. It hurt a lot, though," he said quietly. "I can see that he is concerned with you talking to me, thinking that I'm trying to warp your mind," Hitomi commented. "So you're saying that the fox gave you some type of absolute defense?" the Hokage asked. Naruto nodded. "He is smarter than he lets on," the Hokage thought. "Whatever that thing she gave to me defends me, so I guess so," Naruto replied. The Hokage let loose an aggravated sigh. "This could prove really bad. It might kill people if they're not careful, and I don't know how much longer I can protect him if that happens." The Hokage thought wearily. After he gave Naruto the money he asked for, the Hokage let him leave. The old man called for his most loyal ANBU. They were going to have to keep a closer eye on Naruto from now on, not knowing their masked feelings for the demon container, thinking that they honored the late fourth Hokage's wish. Naruto was on his way home to his apartment when a mob of angry villagers surrounded him, seemingly coming out from nowhere. They must have found about his meeting with the old man and set up this ambush. "Demon scum, today you die," a villager yelled. There is a loud cheer of approval throughout the mob as they advances on him. However, their progress was halted when ANBU appeared in front of them. "No one will do anything until we have our fun with it," one of the ANBU said, making the villagers erupt in cheers. "Kid, we are going to have to step up our plans a bit. I want you to will yourself to dissolve into chakra and get away from the village, or there's a very strong chance that you might die, even with your new defense and healing abilities," Hitomi ordered while silently beginning to convert her container's body into chakra to help him. Naruto mentally nodded and visualized to be anywhere but where he was and willed himself out of there. Just as the ANBU were about to strike Naruto's body with their swords, Naruto's body vaporized into blue and red chakra, and it dissipated like smoke. Villagers cheered, thinking that Naruto had been done away with. Their celebrations were short-lived, however, when they heard the thunderous voice of the Hokage, who had seen everything through his crystal ball. The only thing going through their minds were the thoughts, "We are so screwed." Elsewhere in the village, a bandana-wearing Jounin felt a giddy sensation pass over him. Ibiki felt that soon he'd be having a lot of fun soon. Of that he was sure, but he wasn't sure why. Naruto rematerialized from the chakra a few miles outside Konoha. Hitomi, what was that? He asked. His tenant's reply was a little bit shaky, but he couldn't tell what for. It was an experimental chakra technique that teleports a person away by dissolving their body into chakra. There is a chance that the user can lose parts of his body if it's done wrong. She answered. Naruto took a moment to digest this information before his expression turned into one of amusement. Then I'll just have to be very careful with who I teach this to. Maybe I should put it down as a forbidden technique? He asked. Hitomi just shrugged and told him to do what he wanted, recovering from whatever it was that had her shaken up. Naruto smirked. Things were going to be different from now on. Naruto collected himself and started walking, with only Hitomi, the money that the Hokage had given him, and a dream. His dream, to create his own village. For once I'm looking forward to my birthday, he said out loud with a smile. Naruto had been walking for about 2 days straight with Hitomi, teaching him how to use his chakra. He knew that as long as he was within the borders of Fire Country, there was a high chance of him being seen and retrieved, and he didn't want that. He was somewhere close to the border from what Hitomi was telling him. He found himself taking to her more, depending on her for a form of companionship. Living a life with no friends, he was ecstatic at the chance to be friends with her, to generally have her with him. Naruto stopped for a moment. She called out suddenly, making him pause. I think you should change your appearance. These rags don't suit a future Kage. Naruto nodded, with a smile. Remember how I said you could make things from your chakra? I want you to practice forming object in your mind and molding chakra into that form. Keep in mind this requires a lot of patience to do it right. You won't get it right the first time. Practice with it now, she instructed. It took him the better half of a few hours, but Naruto was now sporting a new look. He had donned a black cape with a full black face mask with a symbol for chakra in the forehead. His face was hidden within a black hood, concealing his blonde hair from view. Hitomi commented on his choice of clothing. That look makes you very suspicious and mysterious, a dangerous combination to be sure. She commented. Naruto nodded, a smile sliding onto his masked face. Yeah, it does. I'd rather be pinned for what I wear over the top than for what I am underneath. I can't change that, yet. He replied. He continued on his way on the path that leads out of Fire Country and into Wind Country. Having no accurate idea where he was, he asked his traveling partner. Where's this path taking us? I figure you know more about the outside of the village than I, and I need a place to lie low for a bit. I'm only a kid after all, he asked. Wind Country is in this direction. There is a hidden village in the area that we're heading. I know someone who loves places like this, so I suggest looking for him. I must warn you, though, he's a bit insane. She told him. Naruto raised his brow. What do you mean? Naruto asked. He had no problems with meeting new people, but hearing what whoever it was insane made him edgy. He had met people like that before. He'd rather not again. Let's just say that Shikaku acts like you did before you left that village, loud and boastful. It was funny because he's the weakest among us tailed beasts, she said with a slight chuckle. Naruto shook his head. I should have known. Naruto walked up the tree and sat on one of its trunks and dozed off. Back at Konoha, the Hokage was informing all Jounin ranked ninja about what happened to Naruto, saying that by some miracle he had survived the attempt on his life that the foolish villagers and now ex-NBU members had participated in. Lord Hokage, are you telling me that that thing is still alive out there? One of them asked. The Hokage's features grew dark at the remark. That thing was wished by the fourth to be viewed as a hero of the village. He asked the village to view the boy, his own flesh and blood, his own son, as a hero. I'm sure that if he were alive today, he would kill everyone who laid their hands on him with anything short of respect. Last time I checked, I was the only one who did such a thing. The third growled. To say that all the Jounin were slack-jawed at this revelation was a severe understatement. What was just said will not be mentioned outside of this office. If I catch wind of anyone saying anything to anyone that isn't here right now, they are to be executed on the spot. Do I make myself clear? He said, his voice calming down, yet the seriousness in his voice remained. Yes, Lord Hokage. All the Jounin said in unison, still trying to get over the shock of Naruto being the son of the fourth. Now that that is out of the way, I can get to the real reason I summoned you all here. Naruto told me before he fled the village that he was receiving training from the fox. Every time one of you goes on a mission outside the village, be extremely careful. There is no telling what he is capable of with the fox's training. If you see him, try to coax him into coming back. This will be considered an ongoing S-class mission. Dismissed, he said, shooing them away with a wave of his hand. All of them filed out of the office, all but one. The third looked at the lone Jounin. Kakashi, take a seat. We have a lot to discuss. The cycloptic scarecrow Jounin sat down, his visible eye clouded. Naruto was a light sleeper. He had to be in order to stay alive in the village. This was no different. Naruto was alerted to someone approaching him in the trees. Naruto manipulated his chakra into a chain and chained the person to the tree he had been standing on. Naruto turned his head to the person lazily. "Can I help you with something?" he asked. He got no answer from his captive. Naruto sighed. "Fine, be like that. I'll just leave you there, and you can die a slow death." He leaped to a nearby tree when the person spoke up. "I'm here to offer a business proposition to you. Seeing as you so easily immobilized me without making a single move, I can see that I found an exceptional ninja for the job." The man said, "It might be a good idea. This ninja looks to be a Jounin from the Sand Village, the one we're going to. We need a cover story in case we're asked what we're doing there if we get found." Hitomi piped and Naruto turned to the bound man. "It's a simple assassination. All you have to do is eliminate the target, and the Kazekage will reward you greatly," he explained. "Who is it?" he asked. He had no problem killing people. He had 7 years of frustration to vent, and this was an excellent opportunity. "There is a boy with red hair and rings around his eyes in a park in sand. We're asking people from outside the village to do it because he's already killed a great number of our ninja," he told Naruto. Naruto nodded, dissolved into red and blue chakra that swirled around the other as it disappeared toward the Sand Village. Huh, like a double helix. Then he realized that he was still bound to the trees. A loud string of cussing was heard from all the way to the Sand Village. Naruto rematerialized from the chakra in the area that was described to him. It had been lucky he had Hitomi guide him, otherwise he would have gotten lost, although how she knew her way around was a mystery to him. "It was a good thing that that guy took you for an actual ninja. Your new outfit does you credit. He didn't even ask who you were, but took you at face value because of your appearance. That is a fundamental part of this world, Naruto. Deception is key." Naruto nodded his head in agreement. Naruto observed the area around him. They found a group of kids playing with a ball at a park. The ball got launched into a tree out of reach of all of the kids. The boy that Naruto was told about had used sand to dislodge the ball from the branches. When he offered the ball back to the other kids, they screamed and ran off. Naruto didn't know what to make of this. However, Hitomi had realized what had happened. "Kit, that boy has the power of Shikaku. That raccoon dog must be contained within the boy, and from the looks of things, he's very unstable. That is who I was talking about before. You should befriend this boy. He could help you, and you him. I know that you were told to eliminate this kid, but I think it would be better to let him come with us. From what we just saw, he is feared to the point where the Kage of this village is hiring outside ninja to kill him." Naruto nodded at Hitomi's wise words. He walked up to the boy who had a miserable expression on his face. "Hey kid, what's your name?" he asked. The boy was startled at his voice, and sand shot out at Naruto. Red chakra surrounded Naruto. 3 tails of chakra sprung from his backside, battering the sand away. The redhead looked frightened. Obviously, he hadn't been expected that to happen. "Come on, kid, I'm not going to hurt you. What's your name?" he asked again. The redhead was reluctant, but took his time, still scared out of his mind. No one had ever gotten through the Sand's attempts to attack them. "Gaara, my name is Gaara," he said, his voice quivering with fear. "It's nice to meet you, Gaara. My name is Naruto." He introduced himself. Gaara had obviously gained a little bit of confidence because he stood up straighter as he nodded, and Naruto mused that it was the first time people hadn't run away from him or acted in a friendly manner towards him without fear. "Gaara, why is it that people are scared of you?" Naruto asked. Even though he knew the answer, he wanted to see if Gaara knew of Shikaku's presence within his body. Gaara immediately seized up, the sand on the ground jumping up around him, proving his agitated state. "It's the sand. People can't get close to me in fear that the sand will devour them. The sand talks to me, tells me things, tries to make me do things, wants me to kill people," he said, his voice becoming more of a whisper as he went. "Kit, tell him to go to sleep so that coward will come out. I will need to talk to him, but I need control of your body or a moment." I can't stay in control for very long because of the seal, so best make this a quick talk. Maybe you should knock him out instead, but do it subtlety. If he knows you did it, he won't trust you at all. Naruto looked a little bit worried, but complied with her request. He sent a rush of chakra at Gaara, bypassing Gaara's sand defense and smacking Gaara in the head. Gaara's body went limp and sand started whirling around him, forming a warped figure. Eventually, Gaara's whole body was consumed by sand, and it started to grow in size. Hitomi, who had control of Naruto's body, had engulfed the body in her demon chakra and surrounded Gaara's possessed body with it, stopping its growth. Shikaka, stop this at once. Don't make me have to pull out your tail. I, the Nine Tails, demand you stop this instant. The sand form of Gaara stared in fear at Hitomi, Naruto's eyes a crimson blood red as a result of her chakra. The Gaara-possessed figure stood stock still, the star pupil shrinking in fear. Kyubi, what the hell are you doing here? He yelped in surprise and fright. Hitomi glowered at him. I'm here for your container. I and my container recognize that because of you, your container will soon lose whatever humanity he's got before he becomes a psychopath bent on killing others for a living. That is, unless you stop your attempts of trying to get free when he falls asleep. You will stop trying to control this boy and escape. Do I make myself clear? The seriousness of her voice was so intense that it made Shikaku flinch. The sand demon nodded rapidly. I won't ever possess his body again unless he's in danger of dying. I swear on my tail, he said quickly. Kyubi nodded and withdrew her chakra, returning to her cage and giving Naruto control of his body. Gaara, who was no longer being possessed by his demon, was going through a similar change, his transformed body turning back to normal, the sand dropping to the ground. Gaara looked at Naruto with wide eyes. What did you do? I don't feel the presence of the sand talking to me, telling me things, Gaara said in disbelief. Naruto smiled a small smile. You don't have to live in fear of being controlled again. The demon has been dealt with in a way. However, I want to test something. He summoned a rock from the ground with a bit of chakra and tossed it at Gaara. Like last time, sand intercepted the rock, batting it away harmlessly. Naruto nodded, and then his face morphed into a serious expression. Gaara, I won't lie to you. A ninja from this village asked me to kill you. Gaara edged away quickly, but Naruto put up his hand, asking him to stop. I, however, changed my mind after seeing why they asked me to. You will never be liked here. Always be feared for the sand that protects you. I want you to consider coming with me, traveling the world, and eventually creating a village where people like us aren't hated and feared. Think about it. I'll be here tomorrow waiting for your answer. Now go enjoy your freedom. I'm sure you have a lot of sleep to catch up on, Naruto said with a warm smile. Gaara didn't need to be told twice and left for home, elated at the chance to get some sleep. Naruto, true to his word, was there the next morning, sitting in a meditative stance while floating several inches off the ground, a blue hue surrounding his body, his face scrunched up in concentration under his mask. Gaara, you came good. What did you decide? Naruto asked, one eye cracked open as he floated above the ground. Naruto noted that he had a pack on his back. Gaara seemed to hesitate in his answer. Where are we going? He asked. Naruto set his feet on the ground and stood up. First off, we're getting out of this village. There's nothing here to do or anything of importance here to get. He was about to use his double helix traveling technique when Hitomi stopped him. Kid, his body won't be able to travel with you with that technique. You're fairly adept at chakra manipulation, but this boy is not. You have to go on foot, no matter how inconvenient it is. Naruto nodded his head, although reluctantly. There's been a slight change of plans. We're going to have to go on foot, seeing as you're not capable of traveling with me yet. When we get out of here, I promise I'll train you to be able to as well. Now, since you've lived in this village, could you lead the way out of here? He asked. Gaara was about to start walking when sand sprang from the ground to deflect some incoming projectiles, Naruto's red chakra doing the same. Naruto glared at the place where the thrown shuriken had come from. What are you doing here? You're not authorized to be here, one of the ninjas shouted. Naruto turned his masked face to the sand ninja. That's okay. We were just leaving. Come on, Gaara. The red-haired boy went behind Naruto, and they walked a couple of steps when the sand ninja advanced on them. You're associating with that monster? Said the leader, giving a silent order to surround both demon containers. Let me leave with Gaara in peace. I don't want to have to kill you. I'm taking him away from your village. Isn't that enough? Naruto asked calmly, unnerving some of the sand ninja. The leader, however, wasn't fazed. You snot-nosed brat. I was going to let you live, but you just changed my mind. Kill them both, he ordered. Naruto smirked under his mask and tapped into all of the sand ninja's chakra pool and grasped them like Hitomi had said to, causing all the sand ninja to stop in their tracks. Naruto let out a loose chuckle. If any of you move, I'll squeeze and you'll experience a world of pain like no other. Unless you let us go willingly, Naruto said, giving their chakra pools a slight squeeze. Who are you? The leader squealed in fright. Naruto laughed hard at this. I'm the chakra demon, Naruto said plainly. Hitomi giggled. Nice name, kid, if I don't say so myself. Thanks, I got the idea from you, Naruto replied. One sand ninja made a move to his kunai pouch. As he touched it, he let out a blood-curdling scream, and his body fell limp, his body falling like a dead weight. The man's comrades looked on in horror. Naruto saw this and smiled a sinister smile at what that technique had done. The sand ninja ran away as fast as they could. Kid, I sense a great number of chakra signatures at the gate. They're trying to ambush us, Hitomi informed her jailer. Naruto smiled at the development. Gaara, when we get to the exit, I want you to watch closely at what I do. I'm going to teach you how to do these things, Naruto advised his new companion. Gaara nodded. They proceeded to the village exit. Naruto, using his stealth abilities, he developed back and leaf to avoid being detected, instructing Gaara to mimic his movements as to minimize the chances of being seen. They arrived at the gate, and sure enough, there were a great number of ninja blocking their way. Naruto surveyed the group from where Gaara and he were hiding. From the looks of things, they're Chunin, Jounin, and Anbu. Naruto thought. They walked slowly to the gate and the mob of ninja. He walked up to the mob and stood there. He wanted to test out something else. Hey, I recognize you from the team of ninja that attacked us just a few moments ago. If you were smart, you would have kept running and quit as a shinobi. You'll be joining your friend in a moment. Naruto's body dispersed into chakra and flew at the group of ninja in the form of the double helix. However, when the helix hit the ninja, instead of just passing through them, it drilled into their bodies. Within seconds, the mob of 30-plus ninja dropped to the ground, dead. Naruto materialized from the chakra, close to Gaara, scaring the red-haired boy. The path's clear, we can go now, he said. Naruto walked to the gate and looked back at Gaara, who was quivering at what he saw Naruto do. Gaara, our lives will be like this for quite some time. There will be people who fear us and those that respect us, as well as people like these villagers who hate us. We can't run from it. We must tackle it head-on if we want to survive. If push comes to shove, we will have to fight back, and if we must, kill them. Come on, let's get out of here before more ninja show up. Gaara nodded slowly, and both demon containers ran out of the hidden village of sand. Naruto and Gaara were several miles out of the village when Naruto signaled them to pull over. They had gotten out of the desert and found themselves on the edge of a thick forest. They took a quick stop at the base of a large tree. Naruto needed to tell Gaara about the demon inside of him. If the red-haired boy was going to be traveling with him, he felt it only fair that he know what dwelled inside of him. Gaara, there are things that I neglected to mention to you within the village. You and I are very similar to each other. Both our villagers hate us for the same reason. You remember when you told me about the voice in your head? Naruto asked. Gaara nodded slowly. There are 9-tailed demon lords. The first demon lord has one tail. His name is Shikaku, and he's a sand raccoon, Naruto said. Gaara stared at Naruto as if he were crazy. He's also the most insane out of all 9 of the tailed beasts, raving on blood and killing people. He was sealed into a boy. That boy is you, Gaara, Naruto said, observing Gaara's reaction. Naruto would have laughed if the situation wasn't serious. If there are 9 demon lords in all, then how are we similar? Why did your village hate you? Gaara asked. Sealed inside of me is the 9-tailed fox. My home village hated, shunned, and was scared of me, thinking I was the great demon reborn after it was defeated by the 4th Hokage. Just a few days ago, I ran away from the hidden village of the leaf with my closest ever friend, the 9-tailed fox, Hitomi. I thought I said you couldn't tell anyone what my name was, Hitomi growled. Naruto adopted an irritated look. Keep your pants on. It's not like Gaara wouldn't have found out. Shikaku would have told him if I didn't. Naruto missed the slight blush on Hitomi's elegant features. You said 9, so that would mean that there are 7 demons left, right? Gaara asked. Naruto nodded. We'll be looking for them and their containers if they've been sealed away. Question is where we go to look for such creatures. Naruto asked. It might be a good idea to look for the next demon up from the stupid raccoon. They might not be able to defend themselves, depending on their opponent. Nibby was always an extremely arrogant and stubborn cat. We should look for her first. Kyubi suggested. Naruto smirked. You mean to tell me you were never stubborn or arrogant? He asked with a chuckle. This exerted a growl from his house guest, which Naruto happily ignored. Come on, Gaara. We have a lot of ground to cover. On our way, I'll teach you the basics of chakra manipulation. Once you know the basics, all you need to do is master it. You can do anything with your chakra. My outfit, for example, is composed completely of my chakra. I never have to go shopping for any clothing or equipment because I can make it with my chakra. Naruto explained. So where are we going? Gaara asked as they began to walk down the path. We should probably go through rain, grass, and waterfall as so we can bypass having to go near Konoha. On our way to Cloud, we might encounter the other-tailed beasts. I just hope that we won't run into that weasel before we find Nibby. She might be 4 tails his inferior, but she scares the shit out of him. She mellows him out, making him easier to talk with. Although I could beat him up a bit, but it wouldn't be nearly as much fun, she said with a giggle. Naruto rolled his eyes. We're going through rain, grass, and waterfall territory to get to the Cloud Village. We're going to find the other people like us, as I said before. Naruto answered. Gaara looked at him strangely, but didn't say anything. The Kazekage looed at the bloody mass of dead shinobi at the entrance to his village. A shinobi with a mask adorned on his face appeared beside the Sandkage. The Kazekage turned to the ninja. Where is that useless boy? He growled. The masked ninja cringed at the tone of his leader's voice. It appears that he has disappeared. He's nowhere in sand anymore, Lord Kazekage. The nin answered shakily. The Kazekage growled in annoyance. Find Temari and Kankuro and send them to my office. Also find Baki and get him to come to my office in 2 hours. The Kazekage ordered. The sand nin disappeared in a swirl of sand. What could have killed my ninja like this? It appears as if they were all killed with one jutsu. Damn it, this village is weak. No matter what I do, it's always weak, he grumbled. He disappeared into his office to meet the faces of his children -1. You wanted to see us, Lord Kazekage? A blonde girl with 4 ponytails asked. Your brother has disappeared from sand. You two will go with a jounin to find him. You will be going to see our allies in Fire Country to see if he has passed through there. You will search for him until the end of the year, so that gives you a total of 2.5 months to look for him. He is very important to this village and must be reacquired. Think of this as early mission experience before you become shinobi, he said. The 2 kids nodded and accepted their task before quickly leaving the office to leave the Kazekage with his thoughts. Naruto and Gaara had been traveling towards rain for a few hours. Naruto, Gaara called. Naruto stopped and looked back at Gaara, who was trailing him by a good few meters. Gaara's face was red and sweaty. You might want to consider slowing down just a little bit, or even stopping. He looks like he's about to pass out, Hitomi advised. Naruto smiled slightly. Even though he knew Gaara wasn't used to walking so much, he was giving it all he had to keep up with him. You're not used to the traveling life yet. You will be, just give it a couple of days, and you'll feel less tired. While we rest, I can teach you the basics to manipulation of chakra. This is something I wish for the village I wish to create take up as a basic taijutsu style, Naruto said as he sat on a tree trunk. You know what chakra is, don't you? Naruto asked. He explained and demonstrated how to do it. Gaara picked up surprisingly quickly, and Naruto praised him for his progress. They were about to set out again when Naruto's heightened sense of smell caught the scent of someone who had been watching his teaching Gaara of chakra manipulation. Naruto's body dissolved into wisps of chakra, shocking Gaara and the onlooker. Said onlooker found himself bound to a tree seconds later. Enjoying yourself? Naruto sneered. Naruto noted that the watcher was a rain nin, so he was probably on border patrol. The rain nin struggled with his bonds, attempting to flee the area, but to no avail. You're a ninja? You don't look like much, but I know from experience that appearances can be misleading. Chakra rupture. Naruto's hand glowed a faint red, and rammed it into the Rain Nin's shoulder, exerting a holler of pain. I didn't say that I was going to teach you now, did I? No matter. You can be my new guinea pig for a new technique. Chakra style, memory wipe. Naruto's finger glowed a faint white, and he touched the Rain Nin on the forehead. Rain Nin's body went limp. Bugger. I guess it was too much power. His mind's gone blank, literally. Naruto said, surprised. Maybe you can use that to your advantage. If you fight someone who has good skill and power, you could reprogram them into ninja loyal to you alone. Hitomi voiced. Naruto considered it. What would I ever do without you? He said with a smile. You would die. If there was any way for me to be removed from your body, the extraction of chakra from your body would kill you. Because you are linked with me, your body runs on less than 0.5% of my chakra, constantly. If I were to leave you completely, not even I wouldn't survive the separation. Hitomi told him. Naruto was astounded. He never knew that. So that means that we're going to be together for the rest of our natural life? He asked. No, kid, not natural life. You will live far longer than you ever could without me. The older you get, the more traits you will develop from me. The more traits you inherit, the longer you live. Hitomi told the awestruck boy. Naruto shouldered the Nin and went back down to where Gaara was. Gaara gave a questioning look at the Rain Nin. This guy is going to be your practice dummy for your manipulation skills. Don't worry about him, though. He's brain dead. Naruto ordered the Rain Nin to stand still and not move. Gaara did as he was told and started practicing. With Naruto's guidance, Gaara grew skilled in the art of manipulating his chakra. Good job, Gaara. You've mastered the first stages of the skill. However, to use these abilities properly, you need large reserves of chakra. The more chakra you have at your disposal, the more damage you can inflict. For this purpose, I've developed a sealing technique. It's really simple. All it does is stores all your excess chakra while your body creates chakra to replace it. This helps when you're in a hard spot with dwindling chakra stores. Naruto explained. Gaara accepted the seal and slumped down to the ground, his body not used to having its chakra sapped like that. Naruto molded chakra into a ball and bore a hole in a massive tree. Satisfied with the makeshift shelter, Naruto set Gaara down inside it. Naruto sat around the entrance of the tree/cave a bit before and left, instructing the Rain Nin to guard the area. Hitomi, what's wrong? You seem distressed about something. Naruto asked. Hitomi had been agitated about something, and Naruto wanted to know what. I sensed one like me in the not-too-far-off area. I wouldn't be bothered by this except that dog is frightened of something. It takes something of immense power to scare us tailed beasts. We have to investigate. We have to find out what's scaring Gobi, even though I don't like him very much. Naruto didn't miss her muttering the words, damn pervert. Naruto vaporized into chakra and headed toward where Hitomi said she felt Gobi, the five-tailed dog's presence. Naruto materialized in the air, using his chakra to grasp the particles in the air so he looked like he was flying. Naruto was greeted by the sight of a giant-sized dog with 5 tails swinging madly in an intended direction. Naruto flew for a closer look to find that a man was evading Gobi's tails. He also noted 2 others were standing idly by as this was happening. Kit, this is bad. From the looks of things, Gobi's running out of energy. Immobilize that disgrace of a human and watch out for the watching one, Hitomi ordered. Hearing her in this state of alarm, Naruto acted immediately. Not wanting to play around, Naruto proceeded with one of his sealess jutsu. Chakra style, great explosion, Naruto called. The ninja that was playing jump rope with Gobi's tails blew up, sending wooden debris everywhere. One of the 2 figures that had been watching had body flickered to where Naruto was and went to hit him. A tail of red chakra ensnared the mysterious ninja's arm. You destroyed my puppet, he yelled. A puppet user? Isn't that interesting? Who are you, and what do you want with Gobi? Naruto asked calmly. The puppet user smirked, but the red tail of chakra gripped his arm tighter, making his smirk turn into an angry scowl, yet didn't say anything. Do you know how it feels to blow up from the inside? Naruto asked. The ninja, who Naruto saw wore a scratched sand ninja headband, gave him a look that answered his question. No. Thought so. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a game of 20 questions. You answer what I want to know, or you lose a limb. Although that really only makes this a game of 14 questions, or however much pain I decide to put you through. While Naruto was talking, the missing Nin was trying in vain to dislodge his arm from the grip of the red chakra. Question 1. Who are you? Naruto asked, his masked face scaring the captured Nin. The said Nin looked around him. He found that Gobi had vanished, as had his partner. He felt the grip of the red chakra rip off his hand. He screamed and shakily turned his gaze to Naruto's masked face. Sasori, my name is Sasori of the Red Sand. He whimpered. Question 2. What did you want with Gobi? Naruto asked, his voice devoid of emotion. Go to hell hhhhh. Naruto increased the pressure to his captor's arm, his arm blowing off at the elbow. Akatsuki. I was going to capture the demon for the organization Akatsuki. Sasori said quickly. 3. What is this organization? Sasori was very pale, possibly because he was missing about half of one of his arms. Naruto growled, making Sasori tremble in fright. Akatsuki plans to capture all the legendary tailed beasts, he yelped. 4. How many do you have? Naruto's voice promised great pain if he didn't answer. We've only just gone out on our assignments in two-man teams. We haven't captured any that I know of. 5. How many members? Sasori hesitated, and for that Naruto blew up the remainder of his arm. 9. 9 members are in Akatsuki. An Uchiha just joined us. Naruto was intrigued by this. 6. Who is his target? Naruto asked. Sasori hesitated again, making Naruto blow up his entire other arm, exerting a scream of pain from the missing Nin. The 9 Tails. He was assigned to capture the 9 Tails. Naruto chuckled manically at this. 7. Which Uchiha? He growled. He would know who the Uchiha was, but it was always good to know the name of your enemies. It's Itachi. Sasori screamed, frightened out of his mind. Thank you very much. You're lucky. It was a game of 7 questions. I think I'll let you live. Without arms, you're not much of a threat. Naruto said happily before his red chakra receded into his body. Sasori, unprepared for the release, plummeted from the air, sailing to the ground. Naruto stayed in the air, digesting this new information. Itachi Uchiha, huh? This will prove to be very interesting. Now where is that dog? Follow your nose, Kit. Hitomi said. Naruto followed her advice. Naruto found himself in the forest where he left Gaara and his human puppet. Gobi's scent was coming from Gaara's location. Oh crap, I should have seen this coming. Some of us tailed beasts didn't get along well with each other, 2 of which were Shikaku and Gobi. As for the reason, I have no idea, but you might want to stop Gobi before he does something bad to Shikaku's vessel. Hitomi warned. Naruto leapt in Gaara's direction, using his double helix technique to bore through the trees to hasten his arrival. Gobi had shape-shifted his size to the size of a tiger, his nose smelling out the raccoon's scent. He was about to charge at his prey when he was slammed into the opposite tree of the clearing he was in. Naruto materialized from the helix. Gobi, stop it, Naruto ordered before dropping into a fighting stance. Gobi snarled angrily at Naruto and advanced on the masked boy. Kid, I know a way to deal with this. Do these steps in order. This will work, trust me, Hitomi said as she began to feed steps of her plan to her host. Naruto began to draw chakra to the chakra points in his hand, expelling it and compressing it into a small ball. Gobi lunged at Naruto, his 5 tails wiping madly behind him. In his hand, Naruto began to spin the chakra he had in his hand. The giant trees around them began to rustle and sway. Gobi had slowed down his charge, transfixed on the chakra in Naruto's hand. The ball of chakra flashed red with a mix of Hitomi's chakra. Seconds later, the rustling stopped, and Naruto floated the ball above his hand. Gobi was now sighting in front of Naruto, his tails laying flat in the ground, no longer smashing into everything and everything behind them. Bringing the ball over his shoulder, he threw it forward, right over Gobi's head. Fetch! Naruto ordered the dog demon. Immediately, Gobi threw itself at the ball of chakra, having completely forgotten about Shikaku. Naruto smirked under his mask. I told you it would work, didn't I, Kit? A demon he may be, but he's still a dog, Hitomi said smugly. Naruto groaned. I should have known you'd come up with such a childish way of dealing with Gobi. You're such a fox, Naruto muttered in his head. I don't know whether to be irritated or flattered by that comment, she replied. Naruto just smiled and turned back to his puppet and Gaara, who was still in the tree. I trust there were no problems while I was gone. Naruto said to his brain-dead puppet of a Rain Nin. The Rain Nin shook his head no. Naruto nodded and turned to Gaara. Naruto condensed the air around him into his palm, using chakra, turning it into water. With a smirk, he threw it at Gaara. Said boy woke up with a start. I'm up. I'm up, he cried out. Gaara looked around to assess where he was. From what he could tell, he was in some sort of small cave, but it had a forest smell to it. Good evening, Gaara. How do you feel? Naruto asked. Gaara opened his mouth to answer, but closed it again. He stayed silent for a moment before he answered. I feel powerful and drained. The redhead boy looked around him and saw the Rain Nin from before and a massive dog playing with a ball. He turned his head to Naruto, a questioning look on his face. Some things happened while you were unconscious. I'm sure that Shikaku is informing you on who that is. This is not a good sign. We have to pick up the pace and get to Cloud as quickly as possible. If we manage to cross another tailed beast while going to Cloud, we'll ask it to come with us. Safety in numbers is our safest option at the present time. I'll fill you in on the way, he said. Naruto turned to Gobi and canceled the chakra that Gobi was playing with. Gobi looked startled for a moment before his gaze met Naruto's masked one. The dog demon rose from his crouched position, his tails flying madly behind him, dealing light damage to his surroundings. Naruto flared Hitomi's chakra around his body, the blazing chakra enveloping him in a red glow. The five-tailed demon was no stranger to this chakra, and he knew that if he wanted to live, his next few choices would be critical. Kit, let me speak to him. Without him being sealed into a human, he will never be able to understand human speak. Only read the emotions and the body language of others, informed Hitomi. Naruto mentally nodded and let his tenant take control of his body. The chakra surrounding Naruto became more defined and took the shape of a fox, nine tails swishing behind him lazily. Naruto opened his eyes. His normal ocean blue changed to a blood red with a slit for a pupil. With his eyes the only noticeable feature on his face, Naruto looked quite menacing. Having his eyes change color while leaking Hitomi's chakra was enough to scare the dog demon in front of him. His whole body went rigid. Gobi, those people you met earlier are dangerous. They are searching for us, the tailed beasts. I want you to come with us. We are safer from those people who call themselves the Akatsuki in large numbers. I'm not telling you what to do, but for your own safety, I suggest you come with us. Hitomi said. Gobi gave a few barks and growls in response. We're going to find the weakest among us. Having you come with us eliminates the task of finding you later. My vessel will be choosing a place where we can hide safely. A hidden ninja village which does not fear us, but respect us. Hitomi explained. A bark a few seconds later was his answer. Kit, he says that for his own sake, he will accompany us. His sense of smell is far better than mine, so he will be able to sniff them out better than I can. Hitomi said to Naruto. Naruto mentally nodded. Hitomi, one last thing. Tell him to drop all hostilities with Gaara and explain to him the concept of a demon being sealed into a human. One he understands that we can precede. Naruto asked. She did as she was asked and relayed the message to Gobi. He snarled at Gaara but didn't do anything more. As Hitomi relinquished control of Naruto's body back to Naruto, he went immediately on the defensive, Gaara and Gobi doing the same. A rain border patrol most definitely felt the bursts of chakra that we released earlier. Naruto informed his companions. They will be on us in half a minute, so be calm and don't panic. They will most likely take us to the village, which is where we want to go. They stood on guard as the approaching ninja drew closer. A team of Rain Nin were headed towards where they felt the explosion of chakra. They were all a little bit livid at the thought of who or what could have produced such massive amounts of chakra, but their Kage had given strict instruction that he wanted to get as much of an explanation as humanly possible. Anything that powerful would be able to lay waste to even the most powerful shinobi nations. The team had their doubts, but chose to keep quiet. Bad things tended to happen when people chose to question orders from their Kage. One person unfortunately had said that going after something that powerful was suicide, and that it was madness to go after such a thing. Suffice to say that the ninja in question never saw another sunrise. The Nin shook his head to clear his thoughts of that incident moments ago. Whatever it was that unleashed that power, one thing was for sure, he would die if his mind wasn't focused. The Rain Nin reached their intended destination, and they were greeted by the sight of 3 people and a dog with 5 tails. Schooling his face into a neutral mask, he addressed them. State your name and your purpose for being here. You are trespassing in rain territory. The rain Nin caught sight of the forehead protector of one of them. It had a rain symbol on it. The masked person of the group saw what he was looking at and cleared his throat to gain everyone's attention. This kind man here is escorting us to the village. We have business with your Kage, he said. The rain Nin noted from the voice that the masked one was fairly young, which sent a chill down his spine. If this kid was able to dish out power like that at such a young age, Kami knows how strong he'll be when he gets older. Very well, follow us. Our leader would like to ask you a few questions. The masked one of the four nodded, and they left for the village. The Amicage had his hat hung low over his face, his chin resting on his hands. Rain was such a small country, and he had little numbers to protect it with should any of the other country decide to invade. They would put up a good fight, but their military might just wasn't that of the other villagers. Hell, even grass could defeat them if they chose to attack. He was hoping that this traveler turned out to be a shinobi. The Amicage frowned. Other villagers had trump cards. Some even had demon containers, he was told. Cloud, Sand, and Waterfall had one each, and even Leaf had one, and one was enough to cripple an enemy's army to nothing but ash. A gentle knock on his office door brought him out of his thoughts. His secretary poked her head in the door. Lord Amicage, sir, the shinobi you sent to scope out the explosion site has returned. They have 4 others with them, she said. He ordered her to bring them to his office immediately. He wondered who exactly his ninja had found at the site. Missing Nin? He shook that possibility out of his head. Missing Nin would have attacked and would not willingly be led to be questioned by him. The door opened again, and a team of Rain Nin walked in, flanking 3 small people and a dog with 5 tails. He schooled his face into a neutral expression as soon as he realized what was in front of him. There was a tailed beast in front of him. The masked one of the 3 strangers calmly took a seat, motioning for his companions to follow suit. When the tallest one sat down, the Amicage realized that the tall one was one of his ninja. Although we aren't in a hurry, we need to be going soon. We have places to be and people to find. We just need a few questions answered, and we'll be leaving this small speck of land you call a country. The masked one spoke up, getting the Amicage's attention. He's only a kid, was the Amicage's only thought as he heard the mask wearer speak. He went to his desk and sat down on his chair. The masked kid motioned his hand towards the shinobi that were sent to get him. Obviously, he wanted them out of the room. He waved them off, and they left the room. When the door was closed, the masked one spoke again. Now we can get down to business. Yes, you said that you had questions that you need answered. In exchange for these answers, I'll want some answers of my own, he replied. The mask wearer just shrugged. Excellent. What answer is T you seek? I will do my best to answer you. The older man said to the younger. Do you have a demon container in your possession at the moment? He, the mask wearer, asked. The Amicage choked on his spit. He wasn't expecting any sort of heavy-handed questions from this boy. He was wrong in assuming so. Recovering him his shock, the Amicage answered. No, I don't, but if I did, woo, life would be all the sweeter and a lot easier. I don't know how you know about them, but I have to say that you've come to the wrong village if you're looking for one. Why are you looking for one? He asked. Don't let my size fool you, sir. There is a good reason I'm searching for them. There isn't much that anyone can do to stop me from doing it anyway, so it doesn't matter. In the coming years, I will make sure that none of them are turned into weapons of treated like a spawn of the devil. The boy spat. The Amicage raised his brow at him. Why? I mean, that's all they really are good for, isn't it? They are there to control the demon powers they possess. He half-asked, half-joked. His comment, however, was met with hostility. The dog that was sitting next to the masked boy shot up from his position, trying to tear the village leader apart. Or it would be if the masked boy hadn't held it back. With what the Kage couldn't tell. The rain leader stared in shock and horror as its 5 tails flew towards him. Had he been anyone but a Kage, he would be dead. The masked boy stood up immediately after, grabbing the center tail of the dog, trying to maul him. Gobi, knock it off. We don't have time for this. It seems we've overstayed our welcome. Let's go. He gave the dog's center tail a quick yank, exerting a whimper from the wolf-sized dog. All 3 people who were seated stood up and went for the door, but were cut off when the Amicage summoned guards to block their path. I'm afraid I can't let you do that. It's not often a tailed beast comes waltzing into my village. I'll be taking it off your hands if you don't mind. said the rain leader, his voice leaving no room for argument. Boys, it seems that they've blocked off the exit. Let's make a new one, he said, extending his arm with his hand outstretched. It flashed blue, and the wall in front of him blew forward like a freak wind had come in and blown it off. The redhead turned his head to the rain shinobi and spoke for the first time. I'd advise you not to come after us. There is no telling what my leader will do if you follow. The masked and the red-headed boy and Gobi vanished in a blue vapor out the hole in the wall. A split second after, the Amikage ordered all the shinobi in the area after the demon dog, but were unprepared for the shinobi that accompanied the masked boy to explode, raking with him a few of the men close to him. In the streets of the village of Rain, a mini tornado picked up, depositing 3 bodies, which landed on their feet. Looks like it's going to be a lot harder to get out of here than I thought. I didn't think he would be that stupid, but he proved me wrong. I smell ninja coming toward us. We have to hurry if we want to refrain from hurting anyone. Yet if worst comes to worst, I will make an example of those that go against me when it comes to people like us, he said. Naruto turned a corner and red chakra leapt off his body, incinerating a shuriken aimed at him. He looked beside him to see Gaara with a wall of sand erected in front of him, kunai and shuriken embedded in them. On his other side, Naruto noticed Gobi was snarling at some rain civilians. His gaze lit up with killer intent. Naruto was entranced at what he saw. Gobi had killed someone with nothing less than a look. Why don't you try it, kid? I'm not sure just how wide your chakra can expand or how many people you can ensnare in a mass murder technique I want to teach you. So you need everything can think of to get out of this alive. Once I'm done making the proper altercations to your body from in here, you won't need to worry about something like that. Now back to the present situation. To do that stare of death technique, all you have to do is apply so much killing intent solely to your eyes that those stupid enough to look will die of fright. It's extremely effective when you're low on chakra, but soon you won't have to worry about that. Now get out of this small cesspool of a village, Hitomi said. Naruto heard her lay herself on the ground of her cell and go to sleep. A thought came to him. He needed to change her accommodation. A cell simply wasn't going to do. Naruto was snapped out of his reverie by Gobi nudging his leg with his head. Naruto looked around him. He noticed that Gobi, Gaara, and himself were surrounded by the native village's shinobi. He cursed inwardly. I wish I knew that mass killing technique Hitomi was talking about. He heard his tenant mumble something before he felt a sudden sting in the back of his head. He felt himself gather some chakra in his hand. He held his hand up in the air and strings of chakra shot from his now glowing fist, the strings attaching themselves to the surrounding shinobi, all save one. He let loose a stream of demonic chakra through all the strands of chakra. A split second later, the air was filled with screams of horrific pain before they were silenced, their bodies deteriorating into the air. Civilians and low-rank shinobi a bit further off witnessed something they had never seen before. Rain, yet this rain wasn't in drops. It was in a vapor, red vapor. The remaining rain. Nin looked at Naruto's masked face, his face completely white, his body shaking with horror. Naruto turned to the lone Nin, making the said him shit himself. I left you alive so you can tell everyone what you saw here. A 7-year-old boy who made the sky rain red. Remember my name. I am the master of chakra, the chakra demon. Naruto's body started to blow away at his feet like smoke. Oh, and when your Kage finally gets here, tell him that he brought this upon himself. Gobi, Gaara were leaving the Red Rain village, Naruto said as his body and those of Gobi and Gaara disappeared into smoke and disappearing into the wind. The survivor of the Red Rain incident fainted seconds after, just as the Amikage came into the area. The survivor woke up with a scream, and he looked around frantically the room to find out where he was. The door to the room burst open, people in medic uniforms coming up to the screaming Nin. They tried to stop his screaming, but they were failing miserably, and after a minute of trying to calm the man down, they sedated him with a sedative. His screams became quieter until they stopped altogether. Again, the doors burst open, revealing a irked Amikage. The survivor has finally awoken. Now I can finally get some bloody answers, the village leader growled. At the mention of blood, the bed-ridden Nin involuntarily shit himself, his body quivering. The medics were going to help him, but the Kage's words stopped them. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted. What the hell happened there? The traumatized Nin's memory flashed to the boy's last words. That BB boy. He killed everyone. Their W is in nothing left of them. Just red. He said shakily. How the hell is that possible? Who the hell was he? The Kage yelled. He said that his end name was the Chakra Demon. He stuck his hand up and touched the air, and strands of sage chakra attached themselves to everyone. A second later, we were gone. Nothing was left except red. After calling to his companions, they disappeared as if they were made of smoke. He said, his voice still shaky. Did he say who the redhead was? The rain leader asked. The name, Gara. The mental trauma being too much for him, he passed out again. The Amikage had a thoughtful look on his face at the mention of that name, but his thoughts were disturbed when a Nin poked his head in the door. Lord Amikage, there is 3 representatives that are asking for an audience with you. They're from Sand. They're waiting for you at your office, and we will hear your wall repaired in a few days. And the red area that the incident occurred still hasn't dispersed, yet it's spread itself out. He said before leaving. It took the Rain Kage a moment to register what he had heard. He headed to the door and cast a look at the bedridden shinobi behind him. That man's brain is too unstable from the experience he had with the Chakra Demon. His ninja career is over. As he left the room, his thoughts traveled back to the 3 Sand Nin waiting for him. Oh crap! What the hell am I going to tell them if they ask about the Kazakage's son? Was his only thought as he left the hospital and in the direction of his office. Kage rarely go out of their villages, and the rare exceptions are the times when ninja selection exams are hosted on different countries, other reason being alliance talks and diplomatic missions. The reinstated 3rd Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves was on his way to Sand for a meeting that the Kazakage had requested. The aged Hokage was actually thankful that there was something that pulled him away from the village that he led, for today was the celebration of the 9-tailed fox's defeat by his successor, the 4th Hokage, and the celebration would be even bigger with Naruto's sudden disappearance. Thinking about the boy made a tear leak from the 3RD's eye. He had failed his successor's last wish, for the boy to be seen as a hero. His mind brought him back to the speech he had given the whole village after the meeting he had with his shinobi. He realized his mistake when news of Naruto's disappearance spread around the village like wildfire. There had been a massive celebration hours after the meeting. When someone had foolishly invited the 3rd to the said celebration, she ended on the floor in a pool of red liquid. He reached Sand to find it strangely less populated, even less than usual. A civilian with a sword in his hands approached the 3rd fire shadow of the leaf slowly. The sight astounded the Hokage. State you business here in Sand, the man said. It took a moment for the 3rd to gather all his thoughts. I'm the Hokage of the Leaf Village. I'm here for a meeting with the Kazakage. The goateed man replied. The sword wielder accepted the answer and waved someone from a far distance over to his location. The Hokage noted that this man looked to be another civilian. Please follow me. Lord Kazakage is expecting you. The Hokage was led to the Kazakage's office, and the 2 greeted each other. Half an hour into their meeting, the 3rd asked the Sand Kage something that had been bothering him. Pray tell me, what happened to most of your shinobi? I saw as I came in that there were hardly any high-level ninja around. The 3rd asked. The Kazakage sighed heavily. They're gone, all of them at once. I didn't see it, but what I saw was enough proof. They were all killed at the same time with one attack. The person responsible has taken Gara with them. He was our ultimate backup plan, and now he's gone. I had some citizens come to me and say that they saw Gara going with someone in a dark robe with a black mask on his face with a red symbol of 2 spirals intertwined on his forehead, said the Sand leader. The Hokage was about to respond, but was frozen to the spot when a massive explosion of power was felt. It was so massive that possibly everyone in the elemental countries felt it. The Hokage, however, felt something else within the explosion. The nature of the chakra wasn't human. He had felt this type of chakra only once before. 7 years ago, both Kage looked at each other before lowering the heads in failure. Rain/grass border. Naruto was in incredible pain. It was so intense that he just wanted to die, but Hitomi was insistent that the pain was a good thing. I'm using all my excess chakra to change the nature of your body cells into a type of living chakra. The pain is good because it indicates that the conversion of your body cells is going according to plan, Hitomi said to her host. Naruto barely acknowledged her words under the pain he was in. He had instructed Gaara to construct a sand dome over himself and Gobi to protect them from any ill effects that might happen during his transformation. Hitomi had said that the changes would be quite explosive and perhaps deadly to others unless they were shielded. After 10 minutes, Naruto finally felt the pain go away. Just as he felt the last of the pain disappear, he felt a power build up in his body, and it unleashed itself, blowing his body up into blue vapor. The vapor collected itself again and formed a human shape. The shape lost the blue hue and clothes became visible again. Naruto sat on the ground, panting hard. He had felt his body separate, and then reconstruct itself. "Happy birthday, Kit. I hope you like my present," Hitomi voiced in his head, her voice full of cheer and joy. Naruto shook his head. "I don't want to sound ungrateful, but what in Kami's name did you do to me?" he cried. He heard Hitomi giggle before she responded to his question. "Basically, I turned you into a living chakra being. You know how you have to forcibly change your body into chakra using your own, doing the blow technique? Now you don't have to do it. And anyone who attempt to hurt you with things like weapons and jutsu won't succeed. People who try to inflict physical damage with taijutsu will go through you, but you can inflict damage on them the same as you always could. Enemy jutsu might make your body explode, but as you just found out, you reform quickly. One other important thing is that your body will still act like it always has, and most importantly of all, reproduce any chakra you use." Naruto was slack-jawed. To say that he was astounded was a severe understatement. He was about to shout out in pure joy when he realized that Gaara and Gobi were still walled up in Gaara's sand dome. "Gaara, Gobi, it's finished. You can drop the dome now." His response was the dome crumbling to the ground. Gaara looked at him in alarm. "What was that explosion?" he asked. Naruto rubbed the back of his hooded head. "It's my birthday today, and Hitomi gave me a gift," he said nervously. He had only understood what a birthday was from the Hokage, who had taken time out of his day to wish him a happy birthday when he was 4. He would often receive the harshest beatings afterwards. Hitomi snapped him out of his thoughts. "Sorry to rain on your parade, Kit, but 2 very powerful people are headed towards this location. The excess chakra I used in the conversion attracted most likely every country's attentions to this location. We have to get out of here, lest we get caught. I don't think that we want to be hindered in our search for the rest of the tailed beasts, do we?" she rhetorically asked. He turned to his 2 traveling companions. They had obviously felt the incoming presence and gave him a curt nod before they turned into chakra vapor and blowing away into the sky, just as the 2 incoming people came into the clearing. The 2 newcomers saw the wisps of chakra, and one of them growled. One of them was Gobi. "I'm sure of it," one said. The other grunted. He was armless. "They're probably far away from here by now. They're fast for punks," he said again. The armless one just grunted again before both figures left the area again. Outskirts of a nearby town. Naruto, Gobi, and Gaara were in a grassy plain. They had crossed into grass, and they had met little pockets of people as they walked further into grass country. "Kid, I think that I might have done something else when I changed your body," Hitomi said suddenly. Naruto kept quiet, waiting for her to continue. "I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it might be possible that I created somewhat of an abnormality with my chakra. I'm not exactly sure what it is I changed, so just be cautious." On another note, the explosion of my power acted like a signal flare, meaning that the 6 remaining tailed beasts now have an advanced warning of my presence. This means that Raccoon Boy and the pervert dog will need to rejuvenate, which means we have to find somewhere to stay for the night, and I don't think neither Gaara or Gobi plan to sleep outside again," Hitomi said sagely. Naruto's brow furrowed. He didn't want to stay in an enclosed space. It made him feel uncomfortable. Hitomi must have read his mind because she snorted. "How can you keep forgetting that you're not in the detestable village of leaves, and there isn't anyone who wants your head, except sand, rain, and unfortunately the leaf? But hey, it's not like there are going to be any leaf ninja in grass country. At least I hope not." She though the last part. Naruto still felt uneasy, yet what Hitomi said won him over. Naruto turned to Gaara and Gobi. He knew that the elemental counties knew of the tailed beasts, and that at least someone would recognize Gaara as the Kazekage's son. "Guys, I don't think that it would be wise for you if you were to come with me to grass. Everybody will be able to identify you guys. Gobi with the aura you generate, and Gaara, You're known by most, if not all, the shinobi countries as the Kazakage's son, and I don't want to have a repeat of what happened in Ring. You guys understand, right? I am the most powerful, and I want to make sure that you guys are safe. That is why I'm going to ask you two to stay here and out of sight." Gaara's eyes widened in shock, and Gobi went rigid. Gobi still isn't recovered from his encounter with the Akatsuki, and the last thing we need is more attention drawn to us, especially at a time when neither of you are in any reasonable condition to defend yourselves. Look after yourselves while I'm gone. I shouldn't take too long. Naruto turned from the two in front of him, and his body started to blow away with the silent wind. His last words reached their ears before he blew away completely. "Gaara, get the raccoon to teach you to understand demon speak. If we don't, then we're going to be hard-pressed to communicate with the others when we find them." Then he was gone. Gaara let out a small laugh at what he heard next. "It's not fair. She always says that. Don't I deserve any respect? Just because I'm the weakest of the tailed beasts doesn't make me a pushover." Shikaku cried out. He sulked for a few more minutes before he stopped suddenly. Gaara sensed that there was something unsettling his tenant and asked it what was going on. It was Gobi that answered him, drawing an arrow pointed in the direction they came in. Shikaku filled his confused host to Gobi's attempt at communication. "There are people headed in this direction." Gaara was about to ask what the big deal was when the sand incarnation cut him off. "They're not coming in this general direction, kid. They're coming towards us, to our exact location. We have what power we have suppressed as much as we can, so how could they find us?" He trailed off. Gaara supposed that he was sitting in a thinking pose while he was doing this, as if to bolster his intellect. He almost fell flat on his back when the sand demon's voice rang in his head. "Kid, we have to get out of here quickly. Looks like your father isn't letting you go as easily as we had hoped. I sense a Jounin-level chakra signature as well as 2 other smaller chakra blips." Gaara bit his lip. "Naruto told us to stay here. What will he do when he comes back here and finds the trance of us?" Gaara questioned. He heard his demon heave a sigh. "I'm not usually the one who incurs Hitomi's wrath, but we are supposed to remain inconspicuous to everyone, remember? As long as we remain like that, then we have nothing to worry about. Hitomi and Naruto will both understand when they find us." Gaara was unable to respond. Gobi had picked him up by the waist with one of his tails and deposited the red head on his large back. Gobi tried the blow technique to get away, but he gave an indignant growl when he realized that he was still too weak to perform anything less than normal body movements. Gobi had to use his other tails to keep himself up. Gaara's weight on top of his own was too much for him at the moment. Gaara unwrapped the tail from around him and rolled off of the dog. "Got any bright ideas? Because I don't," Gaara asked his tenant. Gaara got the equivalent to a head shake. "This isn't good," was the only thing Gaara said before sand sprung in front of him to protect himself from a kunai that was thrown at him. He was taken aback when the kunai exploded, his feet sliding back a few feet as a result of the explosion. He opened his eyes to see who had attacked him. He saw a man with red marks on one cheek with the other side of his face covered. He had a sand forehead protector on his forehead. He wished that he had the skill with manipulating chakra to use it in battle to deal with the ninja in front of him. There wasn't that much sand around, so he didn't have the option of using sand open to him. Shifting into his stance that Naruto had shown him, he closed his eyes. He was about to launch into a quick dash when a memory of Naruto's first lesson to him ran through his head. Flashback. Naruto was standing in a position with his body resting on his back leg with arms bent at the elbow and his hands coming together in a loose cross. This stance is used as the basis for the form of taijutsu I will teach you. This opening stance is used so that everyone who uses this style can change it to their liking while still granting the user the qualities that the chakra fist warrants. You mustn't be careless and charge without a clear mind, or it can prove to be just as damaging to the user. He explained as he ignited his fist with red chakra and shaped it into a sharp razor blade, slicing a tree into toothpicks. Flashback end. Gaara emitted a small sigh, making the sand jounin look at him funny. "My father sent you, didn't he?" Gaara asked. The Sannin nodded, although it was slow and hesitant. "You can tell my father when you go back to Sand that I'm sorry for what my friend did. They were in his way." Gaara clenched his hand into a fist and grunted. His fist lit up with blazing blue chakra. The Sannin took a step back. "I won't kill you, but you might wish that I had later. Chakra point destruction." Gaara swiped his hand diagonally in front of him in the Sand Nin's direction. Having no idea what kind of attack this was, he went through a few hand seals for a wind jutsu. Just as he called it, he felt excruciating pain in his hands, and the chakra he had collected for the jutsu dissipated. He tried to suppress a shriek, but wasn't successful. Gaara frowned. He hadn't been concentrating hard enough. He had hit about half the chakra point in both his opponent's hands instead of all of them. Baki! Two shouts were heard from behind the Sand Nin. Gaara now identified as Baki. A blonde-haired girl with 4 ponytails and a boy with purple face paint ran up to the Sand Jounin. Temari, Kinkro, were Gaara's only words as he stared at his siblings. Time seemed to slow down as the redhead, his brother and sister exchanged looks. 2 of 3 were terror-filled. Naruto had been in town for 2 hours. He hadn't bought many things, seeing as there wasn't much that they had to buy that they couldn't make themselves. He had bought some food, a few sealing scrolls after Hitomi insisted that he get them, a detailed roadmap, and a bingo book with a list of missing nin from every country. Kit, when we get out village up, we need a way to keep the ninja we train from becoming missing nin. There is no telling what someone could do with this level of control. I propose we find a means of binding someone trained by you, or anyone you've trained with a seal, but we can worry about that later. That's still quite some time away. We should get back to Gaara and Gobi. It'll do us no good to have either of them in any sort of trouble. It will attract attention to us, and we need to remain discreet. We will remain low-key until we gather at least half of the tailed beasts. He replied. Freak, why do you insist on coming back here? We don't like you, said a voice of a kid not too far from where Naruto was. Normally Naruto wouldn't get involved with other people's problems, but those words echoed in his mind, making him remember the times back in Leaf where not one person would play with him because of their parents' narrow-mindedness. Naruto shook his head to clear his head of those thoughts and followed the sound to its source. The sound came from a group of kids a few years younger than Naruto. Naruto walked toward what he knew was a person crying. He needed to stop this. Naruto's body was surrounded with a red hue which extended itself to knock those in his path out of his way. Naruto looked at the sight before him. A girl about 5 years old was lying on the ground and sobbing her heart out. Naruto spoke in a very controlled voice. What's going on here? The group of kids looked at Naruto but didn't say anything. From either fear or courage he couldn't tell. Naruto knelt down to the girl. She had light blue hair with a simple garb which was frayed at the edges. Are you all right? He asked, hoisting her up off the ground. She held her head low. Naruto couldn't see her face, but he knew she was crying. He heard her sniff, but she didn't respond. Naruto turned his face to the gathered kids. Scram! He barked. Many of the shorter kids ran away, many of them squealing as they did. The remaining kids took a few steps back, but didn't leave. But Naruto did notice that they were growing very pale. Someone mind telling me why you were piking on this girl here? He asked again, more forceful than the last. There was a veiled threat that said, if you answer wrong, you're in a lot of trouble. One of the boys spoke up. She wears stupid clothes, he said, but immediately knew he said the wrong thing. Illusionary technique. Hell's End. Naruto thought as he cast the 4 boys into a Jinjutsu. He canceled it immediately after, half a second seeing that would be enough for them. Hey, it's okay now. They're gone now, Naruto said, trying to comfort the crying girl, gathering her into a hug. Naruto unconsciously molded chakra into a bench for the girl and himself to sit on instead of the ground. They sat there for a few minutes, Naruto finally able to stop the flowing of tears from the light-haired girl. Thank you, mister, she said, sniffing a few times and rubbing her eyes from the tears. That's okay. This happened to me a few times before as well, so I know how it feels. What's your name? Mine's Naruto, he said. The girl looked at Naruto's masked face, showing him her eyes. She had pupil-less, solid silver eyes that made him whistle in astonishment. My name is Rei. Naruto smiled. Rei must have seen this because she smiled a slightly bigger smile than before. Naruto filed that away in the depths of his mind to ask her later. Rei is a nice name, Naruto said. Rei nodded in agreement. Rei, why were those kids picking on you? Was it because of your eyes? He asked. He felt her grow stiff in his arms. I'm not going to hurt you, Rei, he said. That seemed to work because he felt her relax in his slightly bigger arms. Yes, People seem to want to stay away from me and my grandmother. My eyes are different than everyone else's. My grandmother knows why, but she won't tell me. She said, the last part was said as whisper. Come on, I'll take you home. Where do you live? Ray looked at his masked face before nodding. I'm not allowed to show people the way to my house, but I can trust you. She got to the makeshift bench and led him by the hand through the streets of the town. She led him to a narrow alley and to a door that seemed to be so old it was rotting and threatening to crumble at the slightest hint of pressure. This girl is like you in some ways, Kit. She knows of the loneliness you do, but not to the extent that you do, Hitomi said, startling her host. Have you been sleeping all this time or something? He asked. He got the equivalent of a nod of her head as a response. Changing your body to that extent was enough to tire even someone as powerful as me. I'm going back to sleep. Try not to wake me. Naruto could hear soft snores coming from the back of his head. Naruto. Ray called his name, snapping him out of his trance. He saw that her face held a down expression. Sorry, Ray, I was thinking really hard. I must have gone into a trance. He told her. She seemed to buy it and opened the door. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw that the door opened to a set of stairs that led underground. Grandmother doesn't trust easy. Even after being bedridden, she is surprisingly strong, Ray said as they descended down the stairs. Those who have no choice in doing something usually find a way to adapt to their situation, Naruto said almost silently. Ray must have heard him because she nodded at his statement. They reached the bottom of the stairs and Naruto noticed that they were facing another door, except this one had a written seal on it. He saw that Ray took a small blade and cut her finger, wiping her blood on the seal. She put the blade away and opened the door. My grandmother is really good with written seals. I think she said that she was a seal master who trained someone else in seals. She never said who, though. She was the one who wrote this blood seal on the door to keep everyone but my family out, she said as she opened the door to what Naruto supposed was Ray's house. Naruto walked in after her and looked around. He saw that it was fairly well lit for being underground. It was very simple setup, a bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and a kitchen. One thing that Naruto noticed was that it was a lot like his apartment back in the Leaf. There weren't any decorations of any sort anywhere. My family and I snuck into grass country when I was only a few months old. Grandmother told me that they died trying to flee while trying to protect me and grandmother, Ray explained as she led Naruto through her house. Fire style, Phoenix Immortal Fire Jutsu, rang through the air. Small fireballs sailed through the air, smacking into Naruto, making him blow up into blue smoke. Ray let out a glass-breaking shriek and looked in horror at where Naruto had been just seconds ago. Ray turned to see her grandmother leaning against a door frame for support as she breathed heavily. She wore a simple white kimono with shoulder-length gray hair, her eyes the same as her granddaughter. Ray, why in Cammy's name did you bring that person down here? You know how much danger. Ray's grandmother started to scold her granddaughter about the foolishness of bringing someone down to their home when she saw the remaining blue smoke of the person she attacked regroup before her eyes. That's still an odd feeling. Man, for an old grandmother, you are pretty strong, Naruto said as his body finished reforming. Ray's grandmother was gawking at the sight of the person she had apparently killed moments before come back to life. In Naruto, Ray asked, her eyes moist from fresh tears. In the flesh, so to speak. Do you always attack everyone who isn't your family? Naruto asked. Ray's grandmother was still speechless, but she had a look on her face like she had seen a ghost. Naruto didn't see her mouth and name in disbelief. A defeated sigh escaped Naruto before he turned to leave. Naruto, where are you going? Asked Ray. Naruto turned to her. Your grandmother doesn't seem to want me around, Ray. Besides, I should get going. I have some friends that I left outside of town which I have to find. If those kids come and hassle you again, tell them they'll get a visit from me. Maybe I'll see you around someday, he said before he blew out of sight and through the door cracks. Ray started to cry again when the smoke left completely. What did he mean by those kids that hassled you, Ray? Asked Ray's grandmother. Ray spent the next few minutes explaining to her grandmother what Naruto had done for her. He did that? Look, we can talk about this later. Right now I think you need to go find your friend. He's going to the border of grass and rain. She hadn't needed to say anything else. Ray had raced out the door the second she heard where Naruto was headed. The old grandmother sighed. She had attacked the only person her granddaughter considered her first friend and someone who looked like someone she used to know. Please find him, Ray. I need to apologize to Minato's kid. Naruto reformed from the blow with an eerie silence. He sighed. Rai wasn't kidding. Not only was her grandmother not very trusting, but she was quite hostile to anyone she didn't know. He wasn't very trusting, and neither was she apparently. He began his trek to where he had left Gobi and Gaara. Hopefully they had done as they were told and kept themselves out of sight. His mind wandered back to what Rai had told to him before her grandmother showed up. My grandmother is really good with written seals. I think she said that she was a seal master who trained someone else a long time ago. Naruto sighed. He liked Rai. It felt nice helping someone like her, someone similar to him. It's a shame her grandmother attacked us. She could have taught you sealing. Hitomi said drowsily. Naruto sent her a puzzled look. Don't you know how to create and use seals? Naruto asked, one eyebrow raised. My knowledge is quite limited in that area. The seal I had you place on the raccoon's vessel was a demon seal, but I didn't pay much attention to my teacher. The seal I taught you is one of the only sealing techniques I know. Hitomi said while trying to stifle a yawn. Naruto shook his head, a small smile on his face under his mask before he blew through the forest. Half his body had turned to smoke when he sensed something running in his direction. Naruto! Someone yelled. Naruto's eyes opened wide. He knew that voice. The person drew closer until they were directly in front of him. Rai, why are you out here? He asked, having reformed his body from the smoke. The blue-haired girl panted loudly, regaining her breath. Running all the way out of the town and out here was quite taxing for her small body. After I told her what you did for me earlier, my grandmother felt horrible. She wishes to meet with you. I didn't stick around to find out, though. The second she told me where you were going, I started running. Rai told the masked boy. Isn't this a nice surprise? Naruto thought before he nodded his head that he would go back with her. Before I go, I have to find my friends that I told you were waiting for me. You might want to come with me. You're too far from the town to go by yourself, and something might happen to you. Naruto suggested. Rai looked at Naruto for a second before nodding her head, walking up to his side and grasping his hand. They walked to the edge of the forest where Naruto had left them. They weren't there. Naruto looked around the area for any possible explanation as to why they hadn't done as he asked. Naruto felt the residue from a charged chakra strike. Someone must have found them, but whom? The only people who would know how to find Gaara would be me and Akatsuki, but I doubt that Sasori's organization would send him out armless. It was either them or someone else who knows the feel of their essence. Naruto mumbled to himself. He registered a tugging on his cloak's sleeve to see that Rai was trying to get his attention. He turned his head to look at her. Naruto, something seems wrong over there. There is sand just dumped on the grass. Rai said, pointing to a sand patch not far from where Naruto had been moments ago. He turned from the sight before immediately turning back to look at it. That's it. Rai, you're a genius. Naruto said, bringing her into a hug. She wasn't expecting this and let out a high-pitched squeal in surprise. He quickly let her go, smiling apologetically at her. Rai had a slight blush adorned on her face. Whether it was from the praise or the sudden hug, Naruto wasn't quite sure. Where are your friends, Naruto? Rai asked again. They fled into the forest. The hidden sand must have tracked Gaara down. They would know the signature of Shikaku's power, so they used it to hone in on his location. He said as they proceeded into the trees. Naruto didn't think that shredding the forest was a good idea. As much as he wanted to find them, he knew that drawing attention like that would ruin the surprise he wanted to store for when he revealed his village. That, and he was sure that they hid themselves quite well. Naruto let out an aggravated snarl. I'd be able to find them much faster if it weren't for these trees blocking my way, he said, letting out a sigh. If you want, I can try to find them. I can see through the trees, so the only problem would be getting to them, Rai suggested. Naruto nodded in agreement. Getting to them won't be a problem after we find where they're hiding. The faster we find them, the faster we can talk with your grandmother. Rai nodded. Rai turned her head in a full circle, squinting her eyes after a few minutes. She had a very calculative look on her face. I see 3 humans and what looks like a dog. They're over in that direction, she said, pointing to Naruto's left. Naruto whistled, seeing where Gaara and Gobi had fled to. It was near impossible to see where you were going in that part of the forest. The trees had grown in a way that completely blocked of any light from shining through. Wait, 3 humans? What's going on? He asked himself. Rai, can you see through the dark, or can you just see my friends? The dark makes it much harder to see the individual object's outline. If I had a light, I could get us through, but with no light, it's impossible. Rai answered. Naruto did something that made Rai blink at him confusingly. I think that I can change that impossible into a possible. Big, bright light. Naruto's fist ignited with white-hot flames. Light cutting through the darkness like a hot knife through butter. Rai looked at Naruto and his lit fist in wonder. If you want to know how I did this, I'll tell you, after we've gotten back to your house. Right now we have people to find. They began their journey into the darkness. They came to a cave that erected itself from the surrounding trees 25 minutes later. They're in there, Rai said, pointing into the tree cave. Naruto nodded his head and walked to the mouth of the cave. Gaara, Gobi, get out here right now, he shouted. Half a minute later, they came out looking white as sheets, or at least Gaara was. Gobi was quivering in his small form. Naruto turned his gaze to the two others that were with Gaara. One was wearing something that made him resemble a cat. He was wearing purple paint on his cheeks. The other was a girl with blonde hair and 4 ponytails. Spill it, you two. Who are they? Naruto asked firmly, jutting his thumb at the two mystery people. One of the newcomers shot back at Naruto. Who are you to speak to us like that? Seethed the girl. Gaara looked alarmed at the blonde girl. Temari, please stop. It isn't wise to anger him. He could kill you with a simple thought. You know of the Red Rain incident, right? Gaara said, alarmed. The girl Naruto now knew as Temari nodded her head. We passed through Rain to see if there had been any sightings of you around. The Amikage told us that there had been a bloody incident recently. That's what you're talking about, right? She asked her brother. Gaara nodded. The guy you're talking to was the cause of the said incident. Naruto, please forgive my sister. She doesn't like taking orders very well. Gaara pleaded with his black-masked friend. Gaara noted that there was someone standing not too far off from Naruto. Naruto gave a single nod to show that he let it slide. Naruto, who's the girl? Asked Gaara, pointing at the blue-haired girl. The girl looked at Naruto hesitantly, a frightened look on her face. It's okay, Rai, neither of these people will hurt you. Trust me, if they do, they won't live to tell the tale, he said, waving her forward. Rai walked toward Naruto and took hold of his hand, squeezing it tightly. This Gaara is a friend of mine who lives in the nearby town I was in just before. Who's the cat? Naruto asked. The cat growled at Naruto, getting a death glare in response from Naruto, making the paint-wearing boy yelp in surprise. These two are my older brother and sister Kankuro and Temari. They came looking for me with a jounin to bring me back to sand. After I beat the jounin with a chakra point destruction technique, he fled, leaving my brother and sister with me and Gobi. Gaara explained. Naruto nodded his head, accepting Gaara's explanation. That's good to know. I got us the things we needed from town, but there is some unfinished business we have to take care of. We might even be able to negotiate for a place to stay for the night. We can discuss what else you've been doing and why you disobeyed me, he said, walking away, right next to him. Gaara gulped, his face losing most of its color, and Gobi whined as they followed Naruto. Gaara's siblings exchanged cautious glances before following after their brother. Naruto and his group stood in the kitchen of Rai's house. They had just arrived, and Naruto was interested to hear Rai's grandmother's reason for calling him back here after what happened when they first met. Rai sat next to her grandmother at the table, opposite Naruto and his friends. It's good that Rai had found you. There is much I would like to say, but before I do, I want to apologize for attacking you. I just reacted. Rai must have seen something in you that she knew she could trust. I acted without thinking, she said. Naruto waved her off. It's okay, really. I would have done the same thing as you had our positions been reversed, Naruto told her, accepting her apology. The old woman seemed to straighten, as if being relieved of a great weight. If I may say, that is a very interesting mask you're wearing. What is it made from? She asked. Naruto scratched the back of his hooded head. I molded it out of my chakra. My teacher taught me how to use this particular method of controlling my chakra. It's much less restricted than the other method. As a plus, I don't even need to use any hand seals, although I need to move my arms to mold the chakra into a usable forms for some of my jutsu, he explained. The old lady nodded her head. I've heard of such things been done before using chakra. They use a meteorite to give them control over chakra at levels thought to be impossible. Is that where you're from? She asked. Naruto shook his head. I've worked to get my control to this level from scratch. When I fled my village, I only had one other with me. She taught me all I know. Naruto said. I assume that the teacher you speak of is sealed into your stomach? She asked. Naruto shot out of his seat in alarm. Rai's grandmother, in turn, shot out of her seat to grab onto his arm, not willing to let him go. Do not leave, son of Minato, she said desperately. Naruto had froze hearing this. He had never known his parents, and this lady was claiming she knew his father? He shook his head violently. It wasn't true, was it? Well, what did you call me? Naruto stammered. Gaara looked at Naruto. He had never seen him like this. Given they had only been together for a short while, but seeing someone like Naruto like this made Gaara feel bad. He knew his father, and although he was a dickhead, he was still his father. My name is Kazumi Shoya. I am a seal master, or rather mistress. I am the same seal master who completed your father's training in sealing before his time as Hokage. It is a shame that he had to die the way he did. I had hoped to leave this earth before him, she said with a sigh. Naruto had the mental capacity for only one word. How? Kazumi smiled a small smile filled with sadness. Every master of sealing has their own style of writing such seals. I can see the seal on your stomach, and I can tell that is of my style. I remember all of those that I have taught my art too, only one. That seal is a containment seal designed to hold something, and judging from what I see here, it holds something of great power, say, the nine-tailed fox that attacked the leaf 7 years ago today. But how Minato did such a thing is beyond me. No mortal can defeat a demon. I see what you did. You are very clever, perhaps too clever for your own good, she said, starting to mumble at the end of her speech. Naruto cleared his throat, snapping Kazumi out of her mutterings. What are you talking about? Please, I want to know, Naruto begged. As I said before, no man can ever hope to defeat a demon. Your father knew this, so he summoned a being that had the power to do what he couldn't. He summoned the Shinigami, the death god, to seal the demon into you. However, every dealing with the god of death is a double-edged sword. The Shinigami will do as he is asked and takes his summoner's soul as payment. Kazumi said, her face cast down a dark look on her aged face. Naruto didn't know how he felt. He wanted to be angry, he really did, but the feeling of finally knowing who his father was, the right of that knowledge that had been stripped from him finally being revealed, was too much. Even with all his mental defenses, Naruto was unable to stop the sobs that were about to flood his small body. Naruto let out a pain-filled sob, which then turned into full-blown crying. Kazumi, in an instant without even realizing it, had enveloped him in a comforting embrace. Naruto didn't even register what was happening around him. He was too lost within himself. Gaara, Kankuro, Temari, and Rai could only stand by and watch as Naruto continued to cry. Naruto awoke to find himself face to face, or rather face to mask, with Rai. She was looking at him. Rai jumped back when Naruto opened his crystal blue eyes. Watching someone who was sleeping snap their eyes open at such close range would have a lot of people jump in surprise. Thank God Naruto had his mask on. He was sporting a massive blush on his face at the closeness of their faces, although he had no idea why. Where am I, Rai? He asked as he sat up. It took a second for Rai to gather herself, as well as suppress a blush on her face before she answered. She may be a small girl, but she knew that she was far too close to Naruto than she would be comfortable with if he was awake. After you cried yourself to sleep, grandmother brought you in here. This is my room. She asked me to get her as soon as you woke up. And with those words, she was out the door. A head of red hair popped into the framer of the door. Naruto, are you okay? The sandboy asked. Honestly, I have no idea how I feel right now. It came as a really big shock. Yeah, we all saw, Gaara said with a small sad smile. Naruto flinched hearing these words. None of us think any less of you, Naruto. What you went through yesterday is completely understandable, Gaara said, seeing Naruto's reaction to his last words. I just need time to have this knowledge sink into my brain. My dad was a Hokage, the fourth to boot, Naruto said. Seeing Gaara nod his head before turning to leave, Naruto called to him before he left completely. Gaara, round everybody up and get ready as soon as possible. I hope you guys ate and rested as I slept. We will most likely be coming out of this country with hostiles after us, and personally, I don't want to commit the same act I did in Rain. A repeat performance doesn't do well for a growing reputation. If this Kaguya is smart, he'll keep from attacking us like Rain did. Gaara gave a single nod before his head disappeared from the door frame to do as he was instructed. Not a minute passed before Kazumi came into the room, followed closely by Rai. Not bothering with the pleasantries, Kazumi went straight to business, thinking that Naruto wasn't in the greatest of moods for small talk after hearing what he had heard yesterday. "What are you going to do now, Naruto?" she asked, sitting on the end of the bed. "I want to go back to the Leaf and demand the answers that I have been denied, and kill a lot of the villagers. But I can't let the Akatsuki get any of the tailed beasts lest they do something horrible with their power. But once I find them all and my village is up and running, they'll regret ever keeping something as big as that away from me," he said resolutely. Kazumi nodded her head, her hair falling in front of her aged face. "I wouldn't have expected anything less from you, Naruto. Now, as I understand it, you're headed for the heart of Grass Country to get some info out of the Kage that runs this land?" she asked. Naruto nodded at her question. "Well, we better get going then if we want to get there before tomorrow," Kazumi said as she turned to leave. "Yep. Wait. What?" he yelled as he recalled her last statement. Rai let out small but audible giggle. "Well, I do owe your father a favor, and because of his passing, the favor passes to you. I think he wanted to have sealing as one of your ninja arts. You need someone to teach you how to perform sealing properly, and who better to do it than the one who taught your father him? Besides, I don't think the demon sealed in you can help you learn anything of sealing. Probably thought it was beneath them and wouldn't have to rely on such an inferior skill," she said with a smile as she left Naruto in her granddaughter's room, Rai following closely behind Kazumi, giving side glances at Naruto every few seconds. Naruto delved into his mind to Hitomi's cage. He wasn't surprised to hear soft snores coming from the cage. She did say that his transformation took a lot out of her. He slipped into the cage to find her sleeping, half of her tails being used as a mattress to keep her out of the water and the rest of them as a blanket. He shook her gently. "Hitomi, wake up. There are a few things that have just arisen. I think you should hear it since you were asleep almost all of yesterday, and it concerns you," he said, trying to wake her. All he got as a response was a few murmurs. Against his better judgment, Naruto went to the next step in trying to wake the sleeping demon queen. He crept up next to Hitomi's slightly pointy ear and brought his masked mouth right next to it. "Hitomi, wake up." The reaction was instantaneous. Her slitted red eyes sprang open, searching for the owner of the voice that just woke her up. She turned her head to come in direct contact with crystal blue eyes. "Good morning, kid. What brings you in here?" she asked with a smile. Naruto, on the other hand, was having something equivalent to a heart attack. If he hadn't have had his mask on, she would have kissed him. He quickly buried that thought. If Hitomi found out about that, he'd never live to see another sunrise. He took a step away from her before he spoke. "An update on our situation. Our traveling party has just been boosted, Gaara's brother and sister, as well as Rai and her grandmother Kazumi," he said. By this time, Hitomi was sighting up, listening intently to this new information. "I found out last night who my father was. As it turns out, Kazumi was the one who completed my father's training in sealing before he became Hokage, before he wrote this seal that's on my stomach that keeps you prisoner here in my body," he told her. After the words left his mouth, he thought he had done the wrong thing. Hitomi was seething with anger. "That idiot. I can't believe he would do such a thing to you. His own flesh and blood. When next we come across the Leaf again, they are going to regret ever treating you like that," she nearly screamed. Naruto was taken aback by this outburst. He was expecting her to go into a massive rage on being trapped in the son of the one who imprisoned her. Before he forgot, he added the last bit in. "After Kazumi had told me, I cried myself to sleep. Just now I woke up. Kazumi is going to be teaching me the art of sealing." He waited to gauge her reaction. Her attitude did a 180. She smiled an insane smile that sent shivers down his spine. "Although it goes against what I said about being low-key, we have gained a powerful ally. The eyes of both Rai and Kazumi have a very unique set of abilities. The name of the bloodline, the Kinzanoi, meaning clear eye, makes the use of Genjutsu a very devastating weapon. The Kinzanoi can influence the creation of a Genjutsu into a corporal version of any illusion that is cast. Rai's family, simply put, have the ability to make Genjutsu they cast into the real thing. There was a civil war in country, and most of them were eradicated. These two may be the only people alive that possess the clear eye," she explained. Naruto whistled in astonishment. Hitomi nodded her head in agreement. After we gather the tailed beasts and find a location for our village, I'm going back to the Leaf to get some answers about my heritage. By whatever means necessary. Naruto said determinedly, to which Hitomi gave a single nod to. You'd better. Before you leave, there is something you should consider. You know that Akatsuki had Nin operatives now, so that they have most likely split up to get their targets. Send the sandbags containers siblings with the two that possess the Kinzanoi to Wave. They don't need to be around for you to gather the rest of the tailed beasts. They would only slow you down. Although you need to learn sealing, gathering the tailed beasts is far more important, seeing as others are looking for them. Send the weaker ones to Wave Country. It is neutral country with no Nin village, as well as being close to the sea. Where the fish is most likely to be located, they can go through Fire Country to cut the chances of enemy attacks, but I strongly discourage this. If they get held up by Leaf Nin, they would be asked questions which could damage our plans. Naruto nodded before being forced out of his mind. Kankuro was sitting with his siblings in the kitchen. They had been instructed to pack up whatever they could. The paint-wearing boy saw Kazumi and Rai packing up their kitchen, pacing all their items on a scroll. He was perplexed to what they were doing and was ridden slack-jawed when he saw Kazumi write something on the scroll before all the items vanished. Kazumi saw Kankuro's state and smiled at him. These are sealing scrolls. I saw that Naruto had a few in his possession, but they have yet been used. I'm assuming that he is yet to be instructed on how to use them, she said as she continued to seal things in the scroll. Naruto appeared from the door of Rai's room. Everybody all set and ready to go, he called to everyone. He received nods from the Sand Sibs and bark from Gobi. I'm taking everything that we have here with us, seeing as we'll never be coming back for it. It seems like a waste to leave anything behind. Naruto nodded at her logic. A few minutes later, everybody was filing out of the underground house. Kazumi closed the door with the blood seal on it and wrote a few kanji on the door before quickening her pace up the staircase. Naruto, who had seen her do what she did, fell back to her down from his position at the front to help her. He had seen her struggling to keep going at this pace. After they got out of the door at the top, Kazumi slammed the door closed. Everyone looked at her confusingly, but they discovered why when a tremor was felt underneath them. Kazumi noticed their looks, offered them an explanation. I set a grand explosive seal on the door with a time limit that would explode. That tremor was from the explosion, she said as she leant against the building wall for support as she rested. I'm thinking because of the bloodline you have and the fact that you've had to hide from the world, you've neglected to purchase a cane to help with your walking, he said as she let her breathing even out. At her nod, Naruto drew chakra to his hand, shaped it into a cane, and handed it to her. He did not miss the look of surprise on her face about him knowing her bloodline. It was a simple light brown walking stick which gleamed in the light. As she grasped it, she felt it pulse. While traveling with us, you might find yourself in a hard place. This cane can reshape itself into a weapon when the need to defend yourself arises. The more chakra you put in it, the more damage you can deal, he said before he resumed his position at the head of the 6 people 1 demon group. Naruto motioned for attention. Now I can only assume how things are going to play out when we reach the ninja capital. I will not accept anyone being a casualty, so after our business is done here, Gaara and I are going straight to Waterfall after we're done here and persuade them to give over their demon container. The rest of you will be going to a small island, Wave Country. They have no ninja village and their military strength is minimal. If you 2-inch, he pointed to Temari and Kankuro. Encounter any hostilities, you are to use whatever means necessary to bypass it. I'm leaving Rai, Kazumi, and Gobi in your hands. Don't worry about getting lost. I'm sure that Kazumi can guide you, and should you need it, you can get a map, get there however you want. However, I recommend staying out of Fire Country. Because we're splitting up, I'm going to give you a crash course in using the techniques that I'm teaching Gaara. Your mind is the only limitation. Use your chakra as a weapon. Force as much chakra out of your chakra points as possible to use it to inflict physical damage. Under no circumstances are you to tell anyone how to do these techniques. They're going to be village secrets when it starts up. By the time we meet up again, we'll have our party up by another 2, if all goes well, a few more if we're lucky. Naruto focused his chakra into a condensed orb and handed it to Kazumi. This will allow us to find you no matter where you are. Naruto spent another few minutes discussing more in-depth instructions before Naruto and Gaara blew out of sight. Temari, who had given Gobi to Rai, unenthusiastically chuckled. Okay people, let's get going. she said nervously as they began their long journey to Wave. Meanwhile, Kankuro was silently pleading to Kami for their trek to be simple and not run into any possible enemies. Rai was hoping that Naruto and Gaara were successful in getting what they were seeking, and Kazumi just hoped that they would get to Wave in one piece. The Kuzakage wasn't an old, decrepit old man like the Fire Shadow who had been reinstated after the death of the fourth Fire Shadow. He was in his mid-30s and had only been the Kage of Grass for a few years. Although fairly new to the workings of being top dog of the Grass Country, he had quickly learned of very effective ways in which to deal with the bane of every Kage's existence, said bane being paperwork. When he took the position, he had known there to be paperwork involved, but this was ridiculous. He was currently giggling like a schoolgirl while reading a small orange book within the confines of his office. He had been newly introduced to the book by a white-haired man who he met in passing. He had dropped it from his pocket and told the Kuzakage that he could keep it. When the Kage asked for the man's identity, he simply said that his name was in the back of the book before he disappeared. This had happened just minutes before the Kage saw the white-haired man fly through the air after a loud scream of pervert. Currently, the Kuzakage was faced with a dilemma. He had to complete this paperwork, which consisted of mission reports, mission requests, and civilian complaints, but he did not want to do any of it, simply because it was so boring and it took forever. The Kuzakage was currently leaning back in his chair, hiding behind several fairly large stacks of paperwork with the orange book he had been given in his hand. He had settled for reading this book instead of ding paperwork, and he found himself unable to put it down, so engrossed in the fantasy that it brought its readers to. If no one came in to bother him, then he could continue to do what he was currently doing. He had gotten to a really good paragraph when he was brought back to earth by a sound coming from the other side of the wall of paperwork. He was completely taken by surprise when someone started speaking right over his shoulder. Because of this surprise, he fell backwards onto the ground. The grass leader glanced around to where the voice came to find nothing there. Then he noticed something odd. There was blue smoke floating around him. It perplexed him to see that the smoke hadn't dissipated but slowly clumped together. He nearly freaked out when a masked face popped into view. Boo! That simple word made the grass leader squeal like a small child. The masked head then grew a body from the smoke before leaning down to read the book open on the floor. Wow, I didn't think it was a Kage-wide habit to read this smut. I guess I underestimated yet another Kage. Let me cut right to the chase. I know that you're not in possession of a tailed beast, so we won't deal the same damage we did against Rain. That is if you play your cards right. The grass leader jumped in surprise when another voice was heard from the other side of the towers of paperwork. Actually, my lord, it was you who did everything in Rain. If I recall, I didn't do anything that brought about the red rain. Hearing this, the Kuzakage became very rigid. The rumored chakra demon was right in front of him. The chakra demon smacked his masked face in mock embarrassment. I do believe you're right, Sandman, I do apologize. But we're getting off track, aren't we? I assume you know who I am, he said as he sat on the desk, coincidentally sending a stack of paperwork on the end of the desk to come crashing down on the floor, creating a big thud that shook the office. Oh, I so don't envy you, leader of Grass Country. The Kage that protected my village before I left it had to deal with the exact same thing. What a pity, he said, Tutang. The one the Kuzakage had heard being referred to as Sandman shook his head, giving a shallow chuckle. My lord, aren't you going to be forced to do paperwork like this when our village becomes operational? Sandman asked. You underestimate me, Sandman. I can just get someone else to do it for me. That, or I can just dispatch a few dozen solid clones to do it. Ahem. Anyway, you know who I am from what I did in Rain. Should you try to initiate a capture or an attempt to kill me, I feel that you should know the punishment. He created a small miniature hologram with chakra of a battle with one standing opposite a whole army on the Kage's desk. The black figure pointed to the lone figure. This is me and the others are enemy shinobi. With a simple thought, I can disintegrate anyone who initiates an attempt on my life. The simulated battle showed the single man wave his hand, turning its enemies into dust. The chakra demon hopped off the desk and headed to the door, joining his partner. They reached the door when the chakra demon turned to face the Kage. Any of your nin that attacks us, whether they've been ordered to or not, will die. I am the chakra demon. I will not be fucked with, he shouted before both he and the Sandman vanished into smoke. The Kuzakage only had one thought going through his head as the two left. "I'm screwed," he mumbled to himself, still on the floor in his upturned plush chair, his book of porn forgotten on the floor. "I never thought that I'd have to come back here of all places to come and get you guys. But I guess that it couldn't be avoided for too much longer. I had to come back here to get some info and say goodbye to those that really cared." Naruto said, standing on a road with Konoha's walls on the horizon. 3 other masked figures stood a few meters behind him. "Right? Why are we here again?" A figure wearing a dark red mask asked the one on the middle. "Originally, when he left this place, he and I met up with 2 people, one an old grandmother and the other a young girl about 5 years old. We were in grass country at the time, so it was a fair while ago. Anyway, the grandmother knew someone that he was close to. He will want to retain that connection at any cost." Gaara replied, now sporting a sand-colored mask with the same symbol on his forehead as Naruto's. The other figure on the left, who was about 4 inches taller than the other 3, sporting a dark brown mask with the same symbol as the 2 boys, folded his arms in irritation but didn't say anything. "Why is that so important?" A grumpy voice came from the last figure, who was wearing a red mask with the same symbol as the others. "Well, before we found you guys, Gaara began. "I'm a girl, you dim-witted sand boy." The red-masked figure interrupted him. "Yes, all right, before we found both of you, we were traveling with the 2 that I mentioned and my siblings. We needed to be quick and clear-cut with our movements, so we split up with them. That and what we had to do to find you guys wasn't something that we wanted the others to see, especially Rai. We were going to meet them at a country called Wave. It's actually an island, but Dude, you're getting off topic again." The dark brown masked figure reproached. Naruto didn't feel that they were where they were supposed to be. Instead, he felt them in there. Gaara said, jutting his thumb at the village in the distance. "How does Naruto know that?" The tallest among them asked. "He created an object from his chakra that served as a locator beacon so that we could find and regroup with them once we found you 2 and any other tailed beast along the way." The tall boy nodded his head in understanding. "Right. Not to be a buzzkill, but we can't exactly go in there all willy-nilly. We need a plan, and I'm pretty certain that we won't be able to sneak into this place without someone finding us out. This village holds the clan with the all-seeing eyes, or so I heard from those in my former village, so I'm thinking that it will be even harder." The red-masked figure said. "The Byakugan can be fooled. While we were in Cloud, I was able to extract some info they had on it from a reliable and willing source. Those eyes can see those objects, have telescopic eyesight, can see the chakra pathways in a person's body as well as their chakra points. If we can produce an intense flash of chakra, it will blind them if they chose to use their eyes on us. Because it's the Hyuga clan, you can expect them to be heavily reliant on their eyes for their style of fighting. The only other threat we might have to face is the Sharingan, but seeing as Itachi massacred all but one, I think we will be fine. Besides that, the whole idea is to get in and out with them with the least amount of ninja detecting us." Naruto spoke up, grabbing the other 3's attention. "Just how are we going to do that?" the red-masked figure asked, irked, turning her head to the side, her blonde hair swishing behind her. "Demonic transformation," Naruto called. His form changed into a mass of bright blue color before changing size and shape. When the light from the change receded, a black bird stood in its place. "Why the hell would you take the form of a bird? I thought you loved foxes," the red-masked figure said snidely. "Foxes are taboo in the Leaf Village Yujito, and as a bird it will be easier to scout out the village. Now change your forms and ask your demons to block off all of the excess chakra you don't need. A bird shouldn't have any chakra to speak of. It would be less suspicious if we all flew in a flock. It would alleviate suspicion. Though 4 blackbirds is an uncommon sight in these parts, one don't think they'll look into it too much." The other 3 mumbled to themselves something about smart-ass foxes, but they nonetheless did as they were told. Several minutes and 3 flashes of light later, they were all standing on the ground as birds. "Okay, now what? You know I don't know how to fly," Gaara said. Yujito and the biggest bird nodded at Gaara's statement. "What kind of birds are you? Flap your wings to lift up, intro the air, then use your wings to catch the wind under your wings to control the height in which you can fly at," he instructed. For a few minutes, the 3 transformed figures were able to grasp the concept of flying, some more willing than others. "Stop your whining, Yujito. You won't have to do this many more times," Naruto reproached. "I tend to want to eat birds," not be them. I feel like I want to eat myself. Do you know how that feels? Yujito hissed at him. I have a fox in me that wants to maim me at the moment because of the form I'm in. Deal with it, you mangy feline. Yujito hissed again. Quit it, you two. Let's do what we came here to do and find my family, Kazumi and Rai. Gaara said, slightly irked. Hi. Let's get going before Yujito gets too catty. Flapping their wings to gain height, they began their approach toward Konoha with Yujito, trying to clothesline Naruto occasionally for his last remark. You really have no tact, do you? The large bird said offhandedly as Naruto dodged yet another swoop from Yujito. How long did it take you to figure that out, Kai? You're supposed to be smarter than all of us with that brain box of a turtle inside you. Naruto teased. Just you wait, Naruto. I'll get you back one of these days. Kai playfully threatened. Talks cheap, Kai. He shot back. A few seconds later, Naruto circled around the other three. I just realized that even though we look like birds, we can still speak. So from now on, no talking. If you have something to say, hold it till we're able to change back. A chorus of hi was heard before the four flew off toward Konoha. Konoha prison. You know this is your entire fault, right? Rai pouted. Temari just crossed her arms. You know, Temari, I think she has a point. It was your stubbornness that made Rai's granny to cave in after your persistent whining and go along the borders of Fire Country and its neighbors. Even the masked dude warned us before he and Gaara left that it wasn't a good idea to go though this country. Kankuro commented. Okay. Alright already. I get it. This is my fault. But how was I supposed to know that Leaf Shinobi were going to be there? She yelled back. It's still your fault. Rai said, crossing her arms, mirroring Temari's stance, adding a pout along with it. Will you three brats shut up already? You're giving me a headache. An Umbu guard shouted. Mr. Bully Person, why are we being held here? Kankuro asked, tapping the vertical bars, creating a metallic ping noise. I mean, we're just kids, not ninja. This is cruel, he shouted. Stop frightening the kid's lizard face. We only has to keep them contained till the others get the info out of the old lady they were traveling with. A voice from down the corridor sounded. Shut up, Eagle. At least you get to sit down. I have to stand. I wonder how hard it is to get information out of an old lady. He grumbled, not liking the joke about his mask pattern. The screeching sound of metal hinges moving indicated that someone was coming through the door to the detainee section of Konoha's prison complex. We have enough info for the moment. Set her with the three brats and bring me the brat with the light blue hair. I need a blood sample. A doctor said. Don't you touch her. You hear me. Kazumi shouted, her words backed up by a burst of killing intent. A slap sound bounced off the stone walls of the room. Kazumi slumped to the ground, her bruised and battered body hardly moving. Kazumi was able to turn her head to be looking down the corridor to where their items they had were stored. Not being able to move, she knew that their chances for escape were nil. Finding the orb that Naruto had given her before they departed, she locked onto it. I hope this works. She thought as she sent what little chakra she was able to use to the sphere. Sensing the use of chakra from Kazumi, the standing guard glared at her. What did you do? He growled. Kazumi chuckled weakly as the orb she was given exploded like a grenade, creating a burst of chakra. I'm calling for backup, was all she said before falling unconscious. The two Umbu exchanged a look before unlocking the cell door and letting the doctor in the cell. Temari and Kankuro shared a look before taking a guarding position in front of Rai. You'll have to get through us first, they said defiantly in unison, shielding Rai from view. Outside, the four black birds that were just flying over the gates of Konoha felt an explosion of chakra. Naruto, after identifying that explosion as the tracking orb he had given Kazumi before he and Gaara separated from her, Rai and Gaara's siblings turned in the direction of the chakra burst. Gaara, Kai, and Yujito also felt the explosion. While Kai and Yujito didn't understand why, they followed Naruto and Gaara, who was now flying parallel to Naruto at a much faster speed than they were previously. A few minutes later, they approached the location of where they felt the explosion come from and touched down. Shifting back to human form, the four crouched down on the room of the prison complex, panting heavily, having not gotten used to flying at such speeds. Kai looked at where they were and cocked an eyebrow at Naruto. We're breaking into a prison. Does this feel strange to anyone but me? He asked rhetorically. What was that, Naruto? Yujito asked the black-clad boy, ignoring Kai. As I'm sure Gaara explained earlier, before Gaara and I separated from the rest of the group, I gave one of them a homing orb, which would tell me where they were so I could find them. She must have blown it up, either by mistake or on purpose. The fact that they're in a prison tells me it was the latter option. A scream that could only come from a small girl jolted Naruto to alert. That's right, Naruto said before dissolving into chakra vapor, disappearing down a vent nearby. The other three followed suit, following him down the vent. Inside the prison. Stop screaming, you little bitch. Let us get a blood sample. You'll only make it worse for yourself the more you struggle. Your little friends will find that out the hard way. A doctor growled as he was trying to extract a blood sample from the girl who was thrashing around violently. This is exactly why I left this place, to get away from people like you. A disembodied voice said as the doctor slumped to the ground unconscious. Blue smoke condensed till Naruto reformed from it. Naruto looked at the shivering girl in front of him. He enveloped her in a hug. Rai, are you alright? He asked. Rai opened her teary eyes to see Naruto giving her a hug. Quick as lightning, Rai returned Naruto's hug, holding on to him as he were a lifeline. I was so scared. The mean people hurt Grandma and Temari and Catboy Kankuro. She sobbed. Naruto patted her back softly till she calmed down. Rai, where are the others? He asked just as three others landed on the ground behind Naruto. The bad man dragged me from in there. She pointed to the door to their right. Come on, guys, let's go. Naruto said, standing up and taking Rai's hand as they went into the next room. We don't want to have the whole village gunning for us, so no one is to kill anyone. You got it. After making sure he got 3 confirmations, they twisted the doorknob and went into the next room. The sight that greeted them was unpleasant. Kazumi was out cold on the stone floor with Gaara's siblings trying to get to her, though the bars of the cell were in their clothes all ruffled up as if they had been in a fight. Hey Doc, you got the… Wait a minute. Who the hell are you and how'd you get here? The gecko-masked Umbu yelled. Naruto stared at the Umbu, molding some of Hitomi's chakra to his eyes, changing them from blue to red with black slitted pupils. Making eye contact with the Umbu, Naruto snarled. The second you laid a hand on these people, I became your worst nightmare. He snarled, sending a controlled amount of Hitomi's Ki to the Umbu. The masked Nin fell to the floor, convulsing violently. Kai, who had gone to deal with the sitting Umbu not too far away, returned seconds after carrying their items the Umbu had taken and locked up. Yujito, get them out of that cell. Kai tuned to Temari and Kankuro, who were bleeding slightly. You two might want to stand back. The 2 cell occupants backed away to the far wall as Yujito started to mold Nibi's chakra. Cat's hellfire, she called as dark red flames exploded from her mouth. The flames licked the metal bars once before the metal turned to slush on the floor. Okay, now that that's done, we can get out of here, Kai said as Kankuro and Temari stepped over the steaming puddles of boiling metal. One of us will have to carry Kazumi, Kaiurit. Where'd they take Gobi, do you know? Gaara asked. His siblings shook their heads dumbly as they looked at Gaara in astonishment. Gaara's sand mask crumbled off and pouted when they didn't move. What's with the looks? I'm not a psycho, you know, he sulked. Less than a second later, Temari was hugging Gaara tightly. I missed you, sister, he whispered as he hugged her back. Art, this is so annoying. Yujito growled out, almost gagging at the sight of the hugging pair. Oi, chill out, Yujito. There's no need to get so aggravated. Gaara, Kai, you take these 4 and head for Wave like we originally planned. Yujito, you're coming with me. We have to find Gobi, Naruto ordered. He turned to face Gaara, giving him a look. Gaara noticed the look and sand collected on his face to form his mask. And just why the hell do I have to listen to you? She snapped. She audibly gulped when Naruto gave her a blank stare, his crystal blue eyes boring into hers. That stare was scary. I don't trust you to behave yourself without me nearby. Hitomi told me not too long before Gaara, Kai and I found you that Nibi was sex-starved and the seal binding the 2 of you together is rather crap, so your thoughts are not all your own. For that reason, I have to keep an eye on you. Besides all that, if I brought either of those instead, he pointed to Kai and Gaara. Gobi would go nuts with rage like he did when he met Gaara for the first time. Hitomi said that Gobi didn't like Shikaku or Sanbai all that much. He said smartly whisked. Gaara shivered at the memory. Yujito glared at him for a moment before nodding her head in resignation. I hope that's not the only thing you'll keep your eyes on, she said suddenly. She slapped her hand over her mask where her mouth was, her eyes wide in horror. See what I mean? Naruto asked, giving a nod to the other two boys. They led the free captives out of the building. Remember not to get caught. I don't want to be coming out of here hot, you understand? I don't want any of us being seen by anyone. That's why I'm bringing Yujito with me. Let's go, he ordered. Don't I get a say in this? Yujito asked, sulking silently. No, said the three boys. Yujito just grumbled. They turned to the room they came from and went through the vesting. Outside, Naruto and Yujito were slinking through the shadows of the seemingly empty streets of Konoha. This'll take forever at this rate, grumbled Yujito. Naruto stopped walking, causing Yujito to falter. We have been found, Naruto said, turning to Yujito. How can you tell? She asked him. Simple. This is a ninja village, the most powerful out of all the elemental countries, and we haven't run into anyone. Besides that, it is way too quiet. Even if it is the middle of the night, there should be activity from night-watching ninja. We have been expected. There's no other explanation. We should hurry. We don't know what Konoha's game it yet, and we shouldn't stick around long enough to find out. Hidden snake hands, called a voice. Several blackish snakes wrapped around Naruto's torso, arms and legs constricting him. I told you we were being followed, he said to Yujito before turning to where the snakes were coming from. Who are you and what are you doing in this village? Snapped a purple-haired kunoichi. She had a trench coat on that was swaying side to side, giving an eye full of a fishnet bodysuit with a mini skirt. Not that it's any of your business, miss, but we're here for some private matters concerning me and a few friends of mine. I do have a name, but my enemies often refer to me as the Chakra Demon. May I ask who you are before we leave? You seem interesting, Naruto asked calmly. The kunoichi scowled at him. You're very polite for a demon. Fine, I'll tell you. Only because you'll be dead afterwards. My name is Anko Mitarashi. The snakes wrapped around Naruto, grasping him hard, supposedly squeezing Naruto to death. Anko had a crazy, bloodthirsty smile on her face while she was doing this. Miss Anko, I feel like I must inform you, Naruto said, his voice now serious. That such an attack won't work on me, Naruto said, his body exerting an almost invisible orange glow. Next thing Anko knew, 9 translucent orange tails ripped through her snakes. Anko stared wide-eyed at the sight in front of her. This midget, who sounded and looked no older than 7, tore through her snake grapple. Naruto stared at Anko, seemingly peering into her soul. You're a very lonely and scared person, Anko. Don't be afraid to live life. There's only one ride, and in this world life is such a fragile thing to hold on to. I know this because I lived the same as you did not too long ago. Seek me out if you want to live life instead of act it. Then he and Yujito vanished, leaving a stupefied Anko. Gaara, Kai, Rai, Kankuro, and Temari stalked in the shadows of the surrounding buildings, with Kai carrying the unconscious prone form of Kazumi on his back. How do you see a way out of here? Gaara asked the older boy. Due to it being the middle of the night, the number of ninja patrolling the gates should be at a minimum. This would also be because everything between the elemental counties is rather peaceful, so there wouldn't be a high need for the village to be guarded. They were silent for a few more moments. Gaara, where are we going? Kankuro asked curiously, yet his voice still had a hesitant quality in it. We're headed out of Fire Country first of all, or at least out of this village. Then we'll probably go to Tea Country. When we find a place to call home, we want to be able to keep track of who's going to be where in the village that will be erected. Although, if I know Naruto at all, we'll probably take refuge on one of the islands between water and sea country. There's a small mass of land that sticks out from Fire Country. We should head there because it's the closest point to the island. We'll steal a boat to get there probably, Kai said contemplatively, answering Kankuro. Which direction is it? Gaara asked. South from here, was the reply. So it in the opposite direction that we're going in. There was total silence. Not even the sound of crickets chirping was heard. Crap. Hey you 5. What the heck are you doing out at this time of night? Anumbu called to them. Double crap. They all caroused as they bolted in the other direction. This is cat to all units. We have intruders in the village. I repeat, we have intruders in the village, she said into a hidden headset. Gaara and the group were running like crazy. This isn't good. Naruto isn't going to be happy about this. We got found out and they'll close off all exits, hindering any chances of escape we had. Gaara said worriedly. We need a distraction, something to throw them off our trail. Kai said out of the blue. Gaara stepped back a few meters before channeling his chakra. Split form jutsu. Gaara's body split into 4 identical copies of himself. Draw the attention to any and all ninja following us, but do not attack them. The 3 forms of Gaara gave a nod and dashed into the 4 other directions. That should buy us quite a bit of time. We need a new plan, Kai. Any ideas? Gaara asked. Well, we can't get caught, that's for sure. That only leaves us with a few options. We can't fight our way out, so that's out of the question. The only option left open to us is to hide till the heat dies down. That, or we can find and trail Naruto and Yujito. He thought out loud. I like that option. Let's do that. Rai piped up. Kai shot her a withering look. One thing that was quickly established between all of us when we left our hellholes was that Naruto's word was law, officially or otherwise, no matter how young he is. I think that it has something to do with the standing of the tailed beasts we hold. Since he holds the most powerful and the one that demands respect, we unconsciously give it to him. But since he isn't here, I think that under the circumstances we got ourselves into, I think he'll understand. Little girl, when you were taken, who took Gobi from you? Kai asked Rai. A one-armed man with his face bandaged. He had a cross scar on his chin. And my name is Rai, not little girl. Rai answered. Gaara side glanced at Kai. What do you think, Kai? Gaara asked the other demon container. There's strength in numbers. Let's find Miss Caddy and Naruto. Kai said. I hope that things will work out. I wouldn't want to be Kai when Naruto finds out. He may be the eldest among us containers, but against Naruto, that's meaningless. The redhead thought as they moved onwards with Kai and Gaara in the lead, Kankuro and Temari behind them, and Kazumi and Rai at the back. We have intruders in the village. Spread out and search. Remember, we don't know what we're dealing with here, so everybody be on your guard. Alif Nin said as a small group leapt from rooftop to rooftop. Naruto scowled when he heard this. For Kami's sake, I give them one instruction and they can't even follow one as simple as stay out of sight. He growled. Not everybody has stealth skills like you, Naruto. Your skills at staying out of sight were one of the skills that saved me life as we left Cloud. Flashback. Yujito was sprawled out on the cold, wet floor of an ally in Cloud Village, crying as quietly as she could. If she was found, then it would spell doom for her. The ninja that the Raikage had entrusted to watch over her weren't anywhere nearby. He had abandoned her, just like everybody else. She had hidden herself in the slums of Cloud after the former Raikage had been overthrown. That was 3 weeks ago, and she wasn't faring very well. Her clothes were torn and stained red with blood, and she was severely dehydrated and extremely hungry. Come on out, you little bitch. You can't stay hidden forever. When I find you, I'm going to enjoy breaking you into a fine weapon for Cloud. Or maybe I'll just have dome fun, then kill you. While you live, no one will accept you or love you. The only reason the Raikage hasn't called a cat hunt on us because he thinks that you can become a weapon for Cloud. It's the only reason the new Raikage has let you live this long. A crazed Cloud ninja called after her. Yujito peeked out from where she was hiding. Seeing an empty ally, she sighed. He's finally gone, she thought with relief. I found you, cat whore. The voice of her oppressor came from above her. She shrieked as he drew a kunai, but stopped as she heard the nin sag to the ground with a dead thud. It's not nice to pick on kids, sir, especially one such as this. A young voice sounded in the ally. The Cloud nin grunted as he struggled to get to his feet. Show yourself, he yelled, only to crash to the ground again. This time a burn mark appearing on his back, as if he was pushed to the wet floor. I didn't even see anything touch him. If he's here to hurt me, I'm as good as dead, she thought as she saw the nin in front of her groan in pain. In the corner of her eye, Yujito saw a shadow near her grow darker, taking a defined shape till a person dressed in black was standing in front of her. It took her a moment to realize that the person in front of her was her height, or thereabouts. Are you okay? Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, what's yours? Naruto asked. What do you want? She asked edgily, not answering his question. Believe it or not, I want to help you. It doesn't take a genius to see that you're miserable here in Cloud. I mean, you're hiding in a back alley. That, and you look like you've been through hell. Naruto said, seeing the edginess in her voice. It's not my fault. Everybody fears and hates me and won't come near me. I heard someone say a few weeks ago that I might maim them if the chance came. She said huffily. Naruto took a thoughtful stance for a moment. Do you know why you're treated like you are? Naruto asked. It has something to do with Nibi, the two-tailed cat demon that was rumored to have been captured by the last Kage of Cloud. She replied while slowly trying to get away from him. That's a very interesting tale, isn't it? Container of Nibi? Yujito stared at the dark abyss that was Naruto's mask in total shock before Naruto shot a burst of demonic chakra at Yujito. Yujito slumped to the ground. Two other figures emerged from the shadows. Just before she blacked out, she heard someone speak to Naruto. Did you really have to do it like that, Naruto? Nibi's probably been sleeping the whole time she's been sealed in this girl here. I had to wake her so that the demon could meet the host. She didn't tell me her name. She's way too edgy, and I think that Nibi will help clear that. Boy, will Nibi be pissed. Let's get out of here. He let out a semi-evil cackle, making the boy's sweat drop. End flashback. Okay, so I might have set the bar a bit high for them, but they have Kazumi-sensei and Rai with them, as well as Gaara's brother and sister, and none of them could last in a decent fight if we get caught in this village. If the village council of old bats gets a hold of even one of us, will be drafted as a human weapon like Cloud was planning for you. How do you know that? You sound like you know that from experience. Yujito asked skeptically. When I lived here, 3 years ago, a guy came to the Hokage requesting that I be placed in an organization called Root. As it turns out, Root is a group of ninja under the direct command of a guy that doesn't like the Hokage. Speaking of the Hokage, we have to make an unscheduled stop at the Hokage's office. He's been hiding something from me from the very start. I need to collect that info before I leave here for what I'm hoping is the last time for a long, long time. They traveled in silence for a few moments. How much power do you think Gobi will have recovered in the time that you fought those Akatsuki guys? Maybe we can find him easier if he were recovered. Yujito asked all of a sudden. He should have recovered about 2.5 tails by now. I wish I had his nose. Finding him would be a cinch. This is so annoying. Naruto said irritably. Well, think of it this way. If they're sending men to the gates, we might be able to find Gobi easier. We don't need an escape till we have him, she said, trying to lighten up the mood. I suppose, but I still don't have to like it, he said, getting up from his crouched position, Yujito following his example. Lab somewhere in Konoha. An aggravated growl echoed in the dark room. A scientist threw a medical instrument carelessly at the side with excessive force. The scientist turned to face the only other person in the room with him. We've been at this for their days straight. What the heck does that moron expect us to do with this mutt? There's no way that we can replicate any traits from it. Any human that comes in contact with anything we try will reject it, whether they are a shinobi or otherwise. Besides that, he will break out eventually. The seal that was placed in this room by that treacherous snake was not meant to contain something like this. The white coat exclaimed. Emotionless eyes met the scientist, making them flinch. For now it holds. This seal was created to contain things such as these. The circumstances are just a little bit different from when that man used it. You will continue, or you will die. Don't say such things about your employer, lest you want to die, was the monotone response the scientist got. We aren't dealing with a human experiment. We're talking about extracting power from a freaking tailed beast. It's insane. I don't even remember why I accepted to do this in the first place. The scientist exclaimed. Master Danzu employed you because you were the best in the field that he was interested in. He was confident that you were able to find a way to supercharge his root forces so he can reach his goal. The root Umbu responded whilst also brandishing a kunai. The scientist nodded calmly, going back to his station. The Umbu holstered his kunai. The scientist let out a silent sigh of relief, but on the inside, he was shit scared. When he agreed to do the experiments, he was told that any and all advancements would go to benefiting the village. But hearing what was to happen with the results of the experiments signaled a sudden warning bell to ring in his head with a red flashing sign that said treason. It was no secret that Danzu, one of the members of the Konoha Council, opposed the way that the Hokage ran things in the village, and that by having Danzu's Umbu division supercharged with any sort of power from any tailed beast, he might be able to overthrow the third Hokage. The scientist had, though, that the results would be used to better prepare themselves for an attack by another tailed beast should it ever happen, but he was really starting to regret accepting. Even though the scientist had been against the third for letting the nine tails live after the final battle the fourth, he respected him. He was a fair leader and wasn't unreasonable, which was more than he could say for Danzu if he ever took the position of Kage in the Leaf Village. The scientist's eyes bulged when he felt an explosion of power coming in front of him from the demon, which was standing up and expelling its potent chakra. The pressure being exerted was so intense that it threatened to crush him. "Well, shit," was the only thing that was said before both the scientist and the root umbu were impaled by one of the five tails that were now flying around in a non-existent wind. The two bodies dropped dead with a thud, a pool of blood pouring underneath them. Retracting his tails, Gobi let out a massive roar in triumph of getting free while walking towards the only source of light outside the room, towards freedom. In the streets of Konoha, the explosion of demonic power attracted the attention of everyone residing in Konoha, military and civilian. Even though the difference of power between this explosion and the nine tails was enormous, the power that was being generated right now did nothing to quell the fear that was spreading through the village. Without a word, Naruto leaped in the direction of the sound where the power surge was coming from, Yujito high on his heels. "Well, that blows my theory of him having only 2.5 tails of power right out of the water," Naruto muttered. Yujito said nothing as she followed Naruto. Across the village, Gaara, Kai, Temari, Kankuro, and Rai turned to the direction of the sound, which in turn woke Kazumi from her unconscious state. Lifting her head from the shoulder that her head was laying on, she looked around at her surroundings. Looking around her, she found that she was slung over someone's shoulder, someone that she didn't know. Looking at the others around her, she let out a sigh of relief to see Rai and the two Sand siblings. Before she could say anything, Kai spoke. "Miss Kazumi, you're awake. Good, can you stand?" he asked. Nodding slightly, Kai bent down to let her stand. Once she got her bearings, she gave a sharp look at Kai and Gaara. "It's been a while, Gaara. How are you and Naruto?" she asked. Gaara removed his mask, looking at Kazumi. "We're fine, Kazumi. We found the ones we were looking for. This is Kai, the vessel for the three-tailed turtle, and the other is Yujito, the vessel of the Nibi, the two-tailed cat. We were headed to meet you at Wave when Naruto said that you were in the Leaf Village. So we came here, we broke you out of the cell you were in. Now we're headed towards the origin of the sound, where undoubtedly Naruto and Yujito are headed. We can't leave this place without Gobi, no matter how much that flea-bitten mutt wants to rip me to pieces. That, and we don't have a snowball chance in hell of getting out of this village without Naruto's help. When we went to get Yujito from Lightning Country, he was practicing with honing his control over his chakra to an even finer degree. Hitomi and he had discovered a fatal weakness he has while they were refining his control over her power. You see, this is not the time or the place to get off track to discuss vital information of Hitomi's vessel's weaknesses. There are ears everywhere that have the sole purpose to harm him. That's why he left. We need not arm these people with the knowledge to kill him, the teen scolded Gaara. Gaara pouted, the action going unnoticed by all but Kazumi and Rai, the latter starting to giggle at the face. Eldest of the group cleared her throat, gaining the group's attention. We have little time to dawdle. We won't be able to regroup with Naruto if we miss the chance. You kids go retrieve Gobi. I have some business in the Hokage's office. Before anybody could say anything, Rai and Kazumi disappeared in front of their eyes. Kai rubbed his hand through his dark hair. Can anyone do as they're told? What the hell am I supposed to do now, he muttered. We continue to find Gobi. If nothing else, we have to get him out of here, Gaara said. Kai eyed him curiously when the red head fell to his knees, clutching his side. They're getting closer. One of my decoys was destroyed. It's a new technique that I put into practice, but I did not expect to feel pain at the forceful dispersion of the copy, Gaara said as he gathered himself, Temari helping him up. In the near distance, they heard the shouting of Leaf Umbu. We don't have time to wait around here. We have to move. Once we find Naruto and Yujito, we'll collect everybody. After that, we'll make a beeline to get out of Fire Country. The longer we spend in Fire Country, the more danger we'll be in, and I'm sure that if he were here, Naruto would agree with me, Gaara said with a hushed voice. He got 3 nods in response before departing their present location, quickly. Naruto and Yujito touched down in front of a cellar door in the side street of an unrecognizable building. It had taken a fair bit, but they were able to track down the origin of the geyser of power Gobi released. Naruto scowled. The power the Mutt had released had put the village at full alert, making Leaf Ninja run around the place like rabid animals. We have to hurry this up. There's no telling how much time we'll have to find Gobi and get out of here before Konoha Nin track the source of the explosion here. Or worse yet, the Hokage himself. Though that old man might have protected me in the past, his position as a Kage makes the safety of the village the highest priority, making my life forfeit. I'm nowhere near strong enough to take on a Kage. In a few years maybe, but defiantly not now. Naruto grabbed hold of one of the cellar doors and wrenched it open. He waved Yujito in. Ladies first. Oh, but you aren't a lady yet, are you? He said as he and Yujito descended below ground. Cat's hellfire. Naruto's side glanced at Yujito. Was that really necessary? He asked. I got a little anxious. I hate the dark, especially when it's in enclosed spaces, she said defensively. Naruto rolled his eyes. If it makes you feel better, you can hold me hand, he replied dryly. He almost squeaked in surprise when she did just that. Naruto stared at her for a second in shock. This was a side of Yujito he had never seen. Granted that she had only been with them a short time, but it still amazed him. He noted that she had started shivering and began to mumble incoherently. He was so caught up in this new development, he spaced out for a moment. Silently cursing himself for losing focus, he cast a look at his claustrophobic companion, not sure of what to do. Don't just stand there like a fool. Say something that will comfort her. This time Naruto did jump. He hadn't heard from Hitomi for quite a bit of time, assuming that she went to sleep soon after they departed Lightning Country, but couldn't ascertain the reason for it. Deciding to act on her advice, he gave the hand that Yujito has clutching a reassuring squeeze. The blonde-haired girl looked at him confused. Everything's going to be okay, Yujito. You dash, he started to say, but was cut off by the echo of a dog bark. The bark also snapped Yujito out of her trance. She seemed to shed all traces of her phobia and snatched her hand out of his grasp.